2.5 Men, Reincarnated as Jake Harper. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, Earthquake. A few days later, already in the second week of May, the recording session with Jennifer Lopez was officially behind us, and it had been a huge success. She was even nicer than I expected. Not that I had thought too much about it, I wasn't exactly a fan, I only knew 2 or 3 of her songs, but she surprised me. Cher and Regina completely froze the moment they saw her. Laura tried hard to stay cool, forcing a polite smile and nodding, but it was obvious she was starstruck too. Honestly, I think only Freddie and I remained genuinely chill about the whole thing. We both didn't think too much about it. Now, I was sitting in Pepper's office, a cup of coffee in my hand. She was leaning over her desk, reviewing some contracts. So, paranormal activity past $250 million worldwide, I asked, breaking the silence. Yes, Pepper confirmed, looking up with a satisfied smile. We surpassed the Blair Witch Project, which had $248.6 million worldwide. We can probably add another $40 million, but I don't know if we'll pass $300 million, so our profit is like $100 million now, I said, thinking aloud. Pretty much, she nodded. I grinned. I'll give $2 million to Carly, Sam, and Freddie each, Pepper nodded. About the others, I couldn't care less, I said casually. Pepper nodded again. I'm totally a hypocrite when it comes to money. I would favor my friends without hesitation, but there's no reason to do the same for people I don't even know. The success of the movie isn't because of the actors, any other good ones could have done the job. Pepper, on the other hand, is way better when it comes to this. She wouldn't pay a single penny more than what's written in the contract, no matter who it was. At the same time, she always tried to structure win-win contracts, never squeezing the other side unfairly. She even proposed, by my idea, that the actors could swap all their fixed salary for a tiny portion of the gross revenue. Not a single one took the offer for, by the way, Pepper said, reaching across her desk. She grabbed 3 magazine newspaper covers and tossed them in front of me. Your little project is becoming a tsunami, she said. Rolling Stone, New York Times, Los Angeles Times. Each one had Marshmello's helmeted face splashed across the front. I leaned forward and read the covers. Rolling Stone, Tsunami. Marshmello, the singer that is revolutionizing electronic music. New York Times, Marshmello changing the Nick Nights. How the singer took, almost, all the nightclubs. Los Angeles Times, J. Lo plus Marshmello equals #1 Billboard. On the floor topped every single chart. Pepper leaned back in her chair, tapping her pen against her notepad thoughtfully. We can soon release an album, she said. And what about tours and shows? Now, I'm too lazy to do it now, I replied coolly, leaning back. Going around and singing in a bunch of places. I have other plans. Pepper raised her eyebrows and gave me a long, curious look. Without saying anything, I pulled a stack of papers from my bag and handed it to her. Pepper took the stack and read the title on the cover page aloud, Tomorrowland Project 6. As she started reading, her eyes widened with surprise. Why do a show when I can create an entire event? I said, with a wide grin. Let's cause an entire earthquake, Pepper, I added playfully. 3 and, as if on cue, like a cliché straight out of a sitcom comedy, the ground beneath us gave a sudden jolt. You have got to be kidding me. Pepper muttered as everything in the office started to rattle. Yes, Mom, I'm okay, I said into my phone a little while later. So, only a pipe broke and soaked the living room, I repeated, trying not to laugh. Okay, I'll go to Uncle Charlie's house. Need to make some other calls. Bye, Mom, I said, hanging up. After that, I sent a few quick messages to everyone else, checking in. Fortunately, everyone was okay. Carly, Sam, Freddie, Laura, Cher, and Regina all replied with similar versions of all good and just a scare. Only Spencer had a bit of bad luck. Apparently a few of his sculptures and paintings had been knocked over and shattered during the quake. One dad said he was okay too. Malibu was not that affected. I turned back to Pepper, who was busy organizing some fallen folders. I'm heading out, I said. Pepper gave me a nod, still flipping through the papers. Stay safe, Jake, you too, I said with a grin, waving as I walked out the door. When I arrived at Uncle Charlie's house, a tall blonde woman was standing at the front door, speaking to Charlie in a language I didn't recognize. She laughed softly, touching his arm lightly before giving him a quick wave goodbye. "Swell," Uncle Charlie said to her with a big grin. Then he turned to me, still smiling. "Hi, Jake, are you sure you know what she said?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Charlie chuckled and motioned for me to come inside. Alan was there too, sitting on the couch. "Hey, Alan and Jake," Charlie said, still grinning. "You know how to say please go faster in Polish." He paused dramatically, then said, "Zjedź mój włosy, get off my hair." Funny language, isn't it? Charlie added. "Yeah, hilarious," Alan muttered dryly. "The earthquake hit Sherman Oaks a lot harder than Malibu," Alan said. "What earthquake?" Charlie asked, looking genuinely confused. "What earthquake?" Alan repeated incredulously. "About an hour ago," I added, just as astonished. "You didn't feel the house shaking?" Alan asked. Uncle Charlie had a realization and said, unbelievable," Alan continued, shaking his head. "You actually thought that was you?" "No," Charlie said with a smirk. "I thought it was her, you know, because of me." Charlie leaned back with a satisfied grin. "The good news is, unless they report it on Polish TV, I still get the credit." Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 102, Earthquake II. "I'm thrilled for you," Alan said, ironically. "Anyway, Judith called," Alan added. "A pipe broke," he continued, "soaked her living room carpet, and she's completely freaking out." "All true, Mother told me," I confirmed. "Yeah, well, that's the difference," Charlie chimed in, smirking. "Between wife and ex-wife, with an ex-wife, you don't even have to pretend to care," Charlie finished with a chuckle. "Hey, that's my mom," I protested. "I told her she could stay here until the repairs are done," Alan said. "Hey, what is the problem with you, Dad?" I said, looking at him incredulously. Whoa, whoa. Back up. Back up," Charlie interrupted, waving his hands. "When you told her, did you have, like, a sarcastic chuckle in your voice?" Charlie asked Alan. "It's just for a couple of days," Alan tried to defend himself. At lunch, "Judith, sit down. I've got it covered," Alan said. "No. I can pitch in," Judith replied politely. "Where do you keep the salad tongs?" she asked. "Wait, I got them," she added when she found them in the drawer. "Better use the wooden ones," Charlie chimed in. "What's wrong with these?" Judith asked, holding up a plastic pair. "I use those whenever I drop my watch in the toilet," Charlie replied. "This is a regular occurrence?" Judith asked, raising an eyebrow. "You'd think I'd learn," Charlie said with a shrug. "And you keep them in the kitchen?" Judith asked, astonished. "I used to hang them in the bathroom," Charlie said. "But it freaks some chicks out." "He's just kidding with you," Alan said hurriedly. "Use the wooden ones." Just then, Evelyn appeared in the kitchen. "Hello, boys," she greeted cheerfully, and then, noticing Judith, added, "And Judith, oh great," Charlie muttered under his breath. "So Jake, what do you want to talk about?" Evelyn asked, turning to me with a smile. "You called her?" Charlie asked incredulously. I ignored Uncle Charlie and addressed everyone. "I called Grandma because I decided to buy a new house, so Mom and I can live in it." "What?" everyone said in surprise. "I have more than enough money, and I think we could have a better place to live," I explained. "Oh Jake, you don't need to," Judith said warmly. "That's what I want, Mom. And I can live in a place closer to school in here," I added. "One where do you want, sweetheart?" Grandma asked gently. "I was thinking Santa Monica," I replied. "One, I have some incredible ones there." "We can see some today," Grandma said enthusiastically. I started listing excitedly: a pool, a room that can be transformed into a music studio, a mini cinema. Since I'm making movies, having a place to watch them at home would be great. Maybe 12 garage spaces, a place where I can throw parties, many bedrooms. I paused, counting on my fingers. "Help me, Mom," I said. Judith was just sitting there, completely astonished. "And a sea view," I added with a grin. "I have 2 or 3 of that kind," Grandma said, smiling proudly. At the third house, all 5 of us were looking around the property. "3, this is it," I said, feeling the excitement. This is by far the best one, and the owner went bankrupt, Evelyn added. It'll be easy to close the deal. It already has a music studio and a mini cinema, I pointed out enthusiastically. It belonged to a former celebrity, Evelyn explained. Seems you spent everything on women and booze. Why are you looking at me, Mom? Charlie asked, narrowing his eyes. Are you sure, Jake? Judith asked, her voice concerned. This seems very expensive. Yes, Mom, I'm sure, I replied. To be fair, Grandma, Uncle Charlie, and I are living kinda frugally for how much we have now, too. After that, Grandma went ahead and took care of all the paperwork. It only took a few days to close everything. Mom was so happy that not a single argument happened during the few days she stayed with us. Dad seemed a little conflicted about everything, but, in the end, he said nothing. The price of the house was $15.5 million. Not really much considering how much I have. Grandma even said it was a bargain. A few days later, I was sitting on the deck of Uncle Charlie's house, enjoying the breeze. Mom had already moved into the new house. There were still a few minor repairs needed, but it was more than ready to live in. As I sipped my drink, the doorbell rang. Before I could get up, I saw Dad walking toward the door to answer it. When he opened the door, Carly, Sam, and Freddie spotted me sitting on the deck and immediately started walking over with big smiles on their faces. Hey, Jake, Carly called out, waving. Sup, dude, Freddie added. Yo, genius boy, Sam teased. I laughed and stood up to greet them. We exchanged quick hugs and fist bumps all around. So, where's Laura? Sam asked, looking around. What? I'm not enough, I replied, pretending to be offended, a playful smirk tugging at my lips. They looked at me weirdly. Yeah, it works better on her, I murmured. Then I straightened up and said, I actually want to talk with you three. They gave me raised eyebrows in response. I motioned for them to sit down. Once everyone was seated close together, I pulled out 3 envelopes and handed one to each of them. What is this? Sam asked, eyeing the envelope suspiciously. Your salary from Paranormal Activity, I said casually. You already paid us, Carly said, smiling. Yeah, I even already spent the money. Had a big stomach ache after, Sam added with a sheepish grin. That was only pocket money, I said with a small grin. It was not, Sam replied quickly. Believe me, I tried to put it in my pocket. I just rolled my eyes and said, just open the envelope. Carly and Sam were still opening theirs when Freddie gave a small scream, dropping the check. Hey, don't let the check fall. I don't want to have to sign it again, I said quickly. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 103. $2 million. Freddie quickly picked the check up from the ground, his hands trembling a little. What the heck, Jake, he exclaimed, staring wide-eyed at the numbers written on it. Carly finally unfolded hers and gasped. $2 million, Carly screamed, clutching the check like it might fly away. Wow, I can literally buy a small mountain of fried chicken and bacon, Sam said, eyes wide with wonder. We all looked at Sam, half amused, half concerned. I spoke up, Sam, this money can change your future. Try not to do something dumb. If your parents are not reliable, I can give you some advice. He is right, Sam, said Carly. Then she turned to me, concern in her eyes. Are you sure about this? She asked, referring to the money. Yes, I'm sure. I made even more, I said, referring to the money I had earned. There's another thing, do not tell anybody. It's not good to broadcast that you have that much money, I added. Everyone nodded, even Sam. Oh man, that's incredible. I think I will buy a new camera, said Freddie. I laughed. Do whatever. The three of them kept tossing around ideas of what they could do with that kind of money, half joking and half dreaming about crazy plans. I just stayed back a little, laughing and toning down some of the wildest ideas they came up with. The next day, Laura sent me a message saying she wanted to talk. I asked if she wanted to go out or if it could be at the Malibu house. She replied that Malibu was fine, that she just needed to change clothes first, and then she'd be on her way. A little later, the doorbell rang, and Laura appeared. I opened the door and saw she looked a bit nervous. I gave her a small smile and signaled toward the deck. We both walked outside and sat across from each other on the deck, the ocean breeze gently rolling in. Sue? I asked, starting the conversation. Laura didn't beat around the bush. I got an audition, and I got accepted for the role, she said with a great smile. But it was noticeable from the way her hands fidgeted that she was still nervous. Congratulations, I said, hugging her warmly. After a moment, I pulled back slightly and looked into her eyes. I sense a but, I added. She took a small breath before speaking again. The filming will take place, mostly, in a town called Cloverdale, Canada. I will have to move back to Canada in August, she said after a moment. I froze for a moment but quickly recovered and gently took Laura's hands in mine. What are you conflicted about? I asked, looking into her eyes. Everything was going great. I finally love my high school life and, she paused for a moment, let go of my hands, and opened her arms, and us, she hesitated, her voice soft. I don't know, just go, Laura, I said seriously. That is your dream. I saw how much work you put into this. I know how many acting classes you take every week, Jake, she said softly. I continued, and also know how passionate you are about this. Believe me, girl, I have tons of your messages about it, I added with a smirk, finally making her laugh a little. I will be honest with you, Laura. I could make a better offer than this role you're taking, even though you haven't told me what it is yet. But frankly, I don't think it would be good for you in the long term. You got this one by your own merit. Go there and make it big. Learn more, build yourself more, and get experience, I smiled at her warmly. In the future, if you need, I can help you reach higher levels. Now you're becoming all cheesy, she said, smiling. I smiled and scoffed. And here am I, putting all my heart, I said dramatically, like a Mosby, making Laura punch me lightly. We both laughed too. I then continued, about us, we haven't even made our relationship official. It's not worth mentioning when it comes to this kind of opportunity, I looked into her eyes and added, people come and go. And with your focus on your career and my personality, I don't think either of us is looking for a serious relationship anytime soon. Whether it's with each other or with anyone else. 3 She sighed and said, sometimes I forget how rational you can be. Then she joked, could you be a little more romantic now? Like, she said dramatically, Laura, stay with me, she completed with a laugh. Then I'd have a teen romance drama to brag about. Ooh, now you're the one being cheesy, I said, grinning. We joked a little more. I don't know when or who started it, but when we realized, we were kissing. After a good moment, when we stopped and looked at each other, I said, I have a song for this moment. We've been all cheesy, so this one will make you cringe more, I smiled. I won't lie and say I wrote it for you, I paused. That would be too much, even for me, I chuckled lightly. It's actually a music that I sang for my grandma, but I think you would like it. 3 I took Laura by the hand and led her to the piano. She looked at me skeptically and said, laughing a little in disbelief, you wrote a song for your grandma, and now you're going to sing it for me, I clarified, smiling. I didn't write it for her. I sang it for her, Meg. Freddie said to me, Mom was really surprised about the money, and the fact you shared it. She already considers you like a brother to me. 1 He laughed and continued, she even said, and I'm quoting, if he tells you to go east, go east. If he tells you to go west, go west. 1 I laughed. Really, Freddie, make her stop reading those Chinese novels. They're good, but they might rot her brain. 3 Freddie chuckled and added, she even told me to start calling you senior brother. 4 Yeah, you should really make her stop reading that book, I said, shaking my head with a grin. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 104, The Rule. Laura sat on the bench next to me, still looking a little skeptical but smiling. All right, I said, laughing lightly. I placed my fingers on the keys and started playing Let Her Go, Passenger. I began to sing, my voice soft but steady. Well, you only need the light when it's burning low, only miss the sun when it starts to snow, only know you love her when you let her go. When I finished the song, I let the last notes linger. Before I could even say anything, Laura leaned in and kissed me. I closed my eyes and kissed her back. When we finally pulled apart, we were both smiling. Guess you liked the song, I said playfully. Laura laughed softly, her forehead resting against mine. I loved it. See, you can brag now about how awesome I was, I joked. Laura bumped our heads together lightly and laughed. Okay, big head, I smiled and said, we still need to talk about your role, so we both stood up and made our way back to the deck, the cool ocean breeze greeting us once again. Laura sat down, swinging her legs lightly, and said, I will be Chloe Sullivan. It's a series named Smallville, about the teenage life of Clark Kent, the future Superman. For she continued, I will be a friend of his. She paused a little and added, I think I will need to cut my hair and be a little more nerdy. That is incredible, I said, excited. If I'm not wrong, Laura eventually became Supergirl in Smallville. Another change in the future. Not bad, because if I remember correctly, the original actress who played Chloe Sullivan got involved in something crazy, like a sexual cult or something. For then I said, smiling, if there's ever an episode where he reveals he's Superman, you can just use the same reaction you had when you found out I was Marshmallow. Laura just giggled. Now you're comparing yourself to Superman, she smirked. No way, I'm way cooler. He wears his underwear over his pants, I said with a grin. Laura teased, says the one who wears a candy bucket. One hey, you said it was super cute, I replied, pretending to be offended. Laura narrowed her eyes playfully. That's because you're shameless. You used to trick me into saying only good things about Marshmallow when I didn't know it was you. Yeah, good old times, I said, smiling. It was funny. After some more kisses, I whispered, I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss you too, Laura replied softly. So, when do you go? I asked. Probably the second week of August, she said. At least you'll stay for my birthday, I said with a small smile. She smiled back. When is it? August 5th, I answered. After Laura left, I stayed sitting on the deck, the sound of the waves keeping me company as I stared out at the dark ocean, lost in thought. Uncle Charlie arrived a few minutes later and sat down beside me. Why the lost thought? He asked, glancing at me with a curious look. Laura is going back to Canada in August, I replied. Wanna talk about it? He asked, taking a sip from the beer in his hand. Not much to talk about it. I like her, but we are going in our own paths. And we're too young? A lot could happen in the future, I said. Oh man, you are way too mature, said Uncle Charlie with a chuckle. Now would be the time your cool uncle gives you some good advice, he added, grinning. Let's leave it for another occasion, I said, smiling. But thank you, Uncle Charlie, always, he replied warmly. I raised my glass of juice and clinked it lightly against his beer bottle, sharing a quiet toast under the stars. The next day, all of us were hanging out at Carly's house. Sam, Freddie, and I were already there, and Laura had called Regina and Cher to join us too. Spencer was walking with Carly's dog. Laura smiled and said, I wanted to do it at my house, but my family can be a little noisy. Regina smirked and said, are you sure it's not because of Jake? We all know he's not exactly the good boy to introduce to parents. Hey, I said, feigning indignance. They all laughed. Don't worry, I added with a grin. Next week, my new house will be ready to receive guests. Uncle Charlie needed the house today, so we couldn't meet there. Don't worry, Laura, my house is open, said Carly. Then Cher leaned in with curiosity. So, what's the big surprise, Laura? Laura didn't waste any time and said excitedly, I was accepted in an audition, I got a role. The four girls screamed in excitement too. A lot of congratulations followed, and the four of them embraced Laura, laughing and celebrating together. Freddie tried to step in and congratulate her, but he was quickly overwhelmed by the excited girls, who continued hugging and chattering around Laura. After some time, when everyone finally calmed down, Laura spoke again, a little nervous. But there is a thing. I will have to go back to Canada. The filming will be there. In August, I will return. What? The four girls screamed in unison, quickly surrounding Laura again with hugs and chatter. Freddie, however, slipped away from the chaos and came over to me. Jake, are you okay? He asked quietly. Yes, I said, giving him a small smile. She told me yesterday. Nothing much to do about it, but thanks, man. After some time, we all talked, laughed, and joked. But little by little, whether pulling me aside or through a quick message or call, each of the four girls, in their own way, asked if I was okay that day. Sam was the most awkward one. She almost hit me when I couldn't hold back my laughter. Despite the shenanigans, childishness, and flaws, I really had made good friends. 5. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh junior Up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 105, Fame. I was walking down the school hallway with Carly, Sam, and Freddie. As we moved through the crowd, several students greeted us with waves and smiles. I could see some people pointing in our direction, whispering excitedly to each other. I just kept walking normally, sharing a few nods and smiles back, while Carly laughed softly at the attention we were getting. Sam elbowed Freddie playfully, and he just shrugged, trying to look cool despite the obvious stares. The first 2 music clips from Marshmello had just been released, airing on MTV. The first one was Happier, and just like in the original, Carly was the star of the video. Carly got emotional after watching the clip. She even bought a golden retriever for herself. Unfortunately, the one she filmed with wasn't for sale. Freddie also got famous because I asked to put, in huge letters at the beginning of the clip, that he was the one who did the filming. Happier. Then the other 3 arrived at our meeting spot, Laura, Regina, and Cher. Of the 3, Regina was the one who was grinning the most. No wonder, she was the star of the second clip, Friend Zone. Sia was singing as if she were an observer, while Regina played the main role of the girl rejecting advances and being the centerpiece of the story. Cher was happy too, knowing she would be the next one to be the center in the upcoming clip. But Jake is still the most popular, Cher said with a playful smile. Yet, I had just released 2 more songs, Blame, Calvin Harris, and Wake Me Up, Avicii. And I decided to finally sing one myself, the second one. After all, Wake Me Up was my favorite song from Avicii too. Unfortunately, I didn't get John Newman for the first one. He might be too young, like, born around the same time as In My Past World. I didn't find any singer with his name. Well, I can't get everything one, so everyone congrats me because I sang the song. Since there are plenty of other singers who performed with Marshmello, nobody thought too much about it. Still, by singing a Marshmello song myself, I ended up becoming even more popular. And of course, Regina had already started a rumor that her dad paid for all of us to be part of Marshmello's clips and songs. I smiled and said to everyone, so I got more popular, but without getting overwhelmingly popular. Then, shamelessly, I added, looking especially at Regina and Laura, now it's not hard to choose your favorite song anymore. Now clearly Wake Me Up is the best one. They all looked at me deadpan. Then, without saying a word, they started ripping pieces of paper, making small balls, and throwing them at me. After the shenanigans, Freddie said, I got you now, man, giving me a playful shove. I think you wouldn't even be able to walk around here if people knew the whole truth. Laura nodded. You are in every station, news talks about you from time to time. Sure thing, Regina added. It started to have all kinds of products with Marshmello's head. Speaking of products, some more stuff just arrived at my house. Since everyone is going there to check it out, don't let me forget to hand out the goodies to you guys. I spoke remembering the boxes I received, you bet, said Laura with a big grin. I then turned to Sam and Freddie and asked with a smile, are you sure you don't want to be a star in one of the clips? Freddie answered, no, I still prefer to be the one filming. Sam shrugged. I don't really mind either. Being a side character and still getting paid for it is already amazing. But if there's ever a clip where I get to beat people up, I wouldn't mind, Sam said with a smirk. I laughed and said, I will call you if that happens. Regina and Cher exchanged smirks and said, so Laura will be the one in the Wake Me Up clip. I looked at them and then at Laura, smiled, and agreed. Yes, Laura smiled back at me. After school, we all headed to my house. Everyone looked around, clearly impressed by the place. Judith had already prepared some drinks and snacks for us, making the whole atmosphere even more welcoming. Judith came to say hi, and we all greeted her back. I'll leave you all to enjoy yourselves, she said with a warm smile. Thanks, Mom, I replied. I love your mother, Sam said while already attacking the food. Yet, I thought to myself, I don't hear that often. Regina looked around the house with a sparkle in her eyes. This one will give some amazing parties, she said. Really, Regina? I said, raising an eyebrow. That was the first thing that came to your mind when you saw my house for the first time? She looked at me, challenging. And you don't think the same? I raised my eyebrow again but smirked. Yeah, I said, then joked. My party will still be the most awesome. Regina snorted. Regina, Cher, and even Carly had thrown some parties for the 9th grade. But my ending party last year was still considered the best one. Then Cher and Laura joined the conversation. When will be the party to inaugurate this house? Cher asked, smiling. I was thinking my birthday, August 5th, I replied. Still a bit far away, Regina commented. It's true, I said, nodding. But it's going to be the party. I won't restrict anyone from 9th or 10th grade, and I'll even let some people bring guests. The eyes of Cher and Regina lit up. So we're talking about something like 300 people? Cher questioned, excited. 3, maybe even more, depending, I replied casually. Both of them jumped enthusiastically. And yes, you two can do the planning, I said, smirking. Let the queen bees work for the hive for the first time. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 106, Creepy. Laura turned to me, curious. By the way, what about those marshmallow products you mentioned? Can we see them? I lit up at her question. Sure, I said, already getting up. Freddie, come help me, I added, waving him over. Freddie put down his soda and followed me to the hallway. We returned a minute later, each carrying a large box filled with marshmallow merchandise. Everyone's eyes widened in anticipation. I opened one of the boxes and started pulling things out. There were marshmallow-themed hoodies, t-shirts, hats, keychains, plushies, and even some limited edition sneakers. The designs were colorful and fun, with the iconic marshmallow face everywhere. Whoa, Sam said, grabbing a hoodie immediately. Regina spotted something and her eyes lit up. I want this one, she said, grabbing a cartoonish marshmallow pillow that had a heart shape and the word Friendzone written across it. Wow, there's even a dog collar, Carly said, her voice full of excitement as she was still all over her golden retriever doggy. Laura picked up a marshmallow plushie, hugged it tightly, then walked over to me with a playful smile. This one doesn't have a hidden camera, right? She joked. I looked at her. Sorry, that was out of line, Laura said quickly. I smiled and gently ran my hand along her arm. I'll let you pass, I said softly. You were the victim, after all. Still, I couldn't help but think, one creepy guy, knowing that Laura loved marshmallow, had given her a plushie before. While we were making jokes about it, Freddie, being curious, noticed something odd. He examined the plushie more closely and found a small hidden camera installed inside. Let's just say, I was a little more than angry about it. Then Sam came over to talk to us. You guys are talking about that loser? She asked, already frowning. When I found out, Sam said, clearly not having been there when the discovery happened, I really wanted to break some of his bones. She paused, then added with a touch of sadness, but then I discovered there wasn't much bone left to break anymore. One he tripped, I said neutrally. We had an entire group of testimonies to testify it. Even the principal did, I added with a small shrug. Cher chimed in, wrinkling her nose. I remember he flirted one time about our surnames being similar. Ooh, 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 3 and that creepy sexual talk, Carly added, her face showing a rare expression of pure disgust. Okay, let's talk about something better, I said, steering the conversation away. We all moved to the balcony, admiring the breathtaking view of the ocean as the sun began its slow descent. The breeze was refreshing, and the sound of the waves crashing gently against the shore helped lighten the mood as we shifted to talking about other, happier things. One by one, everyone eventually left, until only Laura and I remained. She stayed close, resting her head gently on my shoulder as we sat together, quietly watching the ocean. As this house is really near to yours, I think we need to make out here. As in the car would be too short, I joked, grinning. Laura joked back, laughing softly, knowing you would make the car go all the way to Long Beach and then up to Westwood. You really know me well, Laura, I said, nodding. We laughed, then we kissed a little. After a moment, I smiled and said, by the end of next week, there will be another premiere, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I happen to know the man who will star in the movie. And I'm also one of the investors. Not a lie, not the entire truth either. Want to go? I asked. Laura lifted her head slightly, smiling at me. Of course I want to go, she said warmly. It sounds amazing. Later that day, I had a conversation with my mom. Mom, Monica, Rachel, Chandler, Ross, and Phoebe are coming for Joey's movie premiere. I was thinking of telling them they can stay here, I said. I knew this was my house, and technically I didn't need to ask for permission. But it was just good manners to talk it over first, especially because, like it or not, she was the adult here. Judith smiled warmly and said, "They were the people who were in the Barbados vacation, right?" "Yes," I replied. "I was in Ross' wedding, and in another one of Liz's post-wedding, second wedding," Judith asked, raising an eyebrow. "Third, to tell the truth," I said, smirking. "But I'll let them explain it. It'll be funnier that way," Judith chuckled. "You really like them?" "Yeah," I said, smiling. "They're like cool aunts and uncles," Judith pointed out. "You have uncle and aunt," I raised an eyebrow. "Uncle Charlie and Aunt Liz?" "They are the ones I've seen in the past 2 years." Judith's eyes widened and she paused for a moment thinking, then quickly stood up. "Yes, we need to make them feel welcome here. I'll talk to the maids," she said hastily. I laughed a little and pulled out my phone, dialing Monica's number. "Hello, Aunt Monica," I said. "Hi Jake," she replied warmly. "So, next weekend will be Joey's movie premiere," I said. I could hear the joy from the other side. Monica must have put the phone on speaker. "So, I'm inviting you all to stay here at my house," I continued. "Are you sure, Jake?" said Monica, a little conflicted. "Oh, come on, it will be super fun," I encouraged. "I'm a minor, but I'll call Uncle Charlie and Dad, and there's Mom here too, to accompany with some good wine. If any of you find any discomfort, you can go to hotel, no big deal," I added. "Fine," said Monica with a smile. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 107, The Arrival. They arrived on Friday afternoon. I opened the door, and there they were, Monica, Chandler, Ross, Rachel, and Phoebe. Each of them carried at least one bag, looking excited but also a little tired from the trip. As I welcomed them inside, I couldn't help but think about what Pepper had mentioned earlier. The premiere would be on Saturday. Normally, movies premieres took place on Thursdays. Still, having it on Saturday meant we had tonight to relax and catch up before the main event. Everyone looked around, visibly impressed. "Wow," they all said almost in unison. Monica turned to me, wide-eyed. "You actually live here?" she asked, her voice full of astonishment. "Yeah, cool, right," I said. Chandler looked around and said, "It's like we're in that movie Richie Rich, 3 but with 20 more years, right?" I joked. Rachel pinched my cheek and I said, 10, better, Rachel said, making me laugh. I smiled and led them further inside. "Come on, let me introduce you to the staff." I guided them toward the kitchen, where the 3 maids were waiting. "This is Emily, Sarah, and Jessica," I said, pointing to each of them in turn. They all smiled warmly and gave polite greetings, making the atmosphere even more welcoming. The maids then escorted Monica, Chandler, Ross, Rachel, and Phoebe to their respective rooms to settle in. As I watched them head upstairs, I leaned back against the wall, thinking. We hired 3 maids, since the house is big. There's also one professional cook, although Mom still cooks from time to time, and she does it very well. I think she's really enjoying experimenting with fancy dishes. Besides them, we have 3 bodyguards. One of them is stationed at the main gate. Another is my personal bodyguard. He usually goes with me when I visit Uncle Charlie's house. So, with Jimmy, my driver, I had 8 people employed here. Besides, there are 5 more bodyguards outside, stationed in a minivan with equipment, hired by my company. Pepper had 2 bodyguards. I told her she should have more, like me, but she declined, saying that for now, 2 were more than enough. Unfortunately, different from Jimmy, none of the others are from a known series or movie. Well, my personal bodyguard could definitely play the role of the mountain. He's more than 2 meters tall, really heavy, and extremely muscular. Even Terrence seems small next to him. When everyone was returning downstairs, the doorbell rang. One of the maids quickly went to answer it. Yes, they are not brutal when it comes to doing their jobs. It was Laura. I had invited her earlier, deciding not to call the rest of the group this time, just to keep things from getting too crowded. I introduced her to everyone, and they all greeted her warmly. After that, we headed to the balcony overlooking the ocean. On the way, Chandler leaned closer to me and murmured, "So I'm not the only one with a girl out of our league." I replied amused, "What are you saying, Chandler? She's totally my league." One he just shook his head with a smile and went to sit with Monica. When everyone was seated, I asked where are the rest. Chandler spoke up. Joey is on his way. Mike couldn't come, he has work to do. Phoebe added. I nodded and completed. Uncle Charlie will come. Dad said he had something to do. Chandler glanced around the balcony, taking a better look at the cushions and the miniatures on the table. Wow, man, you really like Marshmallow, huh? Chandler commented, amused. Laura pinched me lightly. I hadn't told them about the Marshmallow deal. And I wasn't going to tell them now. I'm not Rachel. I don't want to steal Joey's thunder. Rachel, who was sitting on the other side of me, narrowed her eyes playfully. You're thinking something bad about me, aren't you? I turned to her with a dramatic gasp. How could I, Rach? I love you, I exclaimed. Everyone around laughed, and Rachel rolled her eyes with a smile, nudging me lightly with her shoulder. Now, say it, she challenged, smirking. Are you still Mrs. Geller? I teased. Ross choked on his drink, making everyone burst into laughter again. One right after that, Judith arrived carrying a tray with a few bottles of wine. Up until then, everyone was sipping water. The maids followed her, bringing elegant wine glasses and carefully serving each person with a warm, professional smile. So, what are you all saying? Asked Judith, sitting down near Phoebe. Monica smiled and summarized, about Jake liking Marshmallow, and about Rachel and Ross's marriage. We just started, I told with a shrug. Let's kick off with Jake liking the candy guy, Ross said, smirking. Judith looked at me, immediately understanding, and said, he's an incredible guy, see? Even Mom likes him. He's awesome, I added with a grin. It was Mom who put up the marshmallow decorations. Laura smiled and added jocularly, I think he might have a big head, that's why he's always wearing a helmet. I like his songs, declared Rachel. Me too, Monica agreed. Especially Wake Me Up, said Chandler, making a thumbs up to me. Thank you, Chandler, I said, grinning. I heard a chorus of oh yeah, from Monica, Phoebe, and Rachel, probably remembering that it was me who sang the music one. We all raised our glasses for a toast. Laura and I were drinking watermelon juice, then I sang a part. They tell me I'm too young to understand. They say I'm caught up in a dream. Well, life will pass me by if I don't open up my eyes. Well, that's fine by me, Ross said. Wait, you sound like the person who sings this song. 3. Everyone turned to Ross with a deadpan look. Meg, an agent from the intergalactic FBI, stared at the 6 friends, focusing mostly on the 3 women. 1. How come you all feel so normal hanging out with a 13-year-old boy? Jake is like the nephew I never had, Rachel replied. And he doesn't even make me feel bad for calling me aunt. That alone is incredible. Same here, Monica added. He's like a brother I never had. Hey, Ross protested indignantly. 1. A younger brother I never had, she corrected with a smirk. Oh, he's the most mature male friend I have, Phoebe chimed in casually too. Hey, this time it was Ross, Chandler, and Joey shouting in offended unison. 1. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 108, Laugh. We all laughed after giving Ross the most deadpan looks possible. Seriously, men, said Chandler, shaking his head. Ross shrugged innocently. It was a legitimate question. How could you not know it was Jake? Asked Monica, incredulous. How would I know? Ross asked back, frowning. Barbados, said Phoebe, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Oh, Ross muttered as realization hit him. I was a little drunk, he added, trying to defend himself. Yeah, because if you were too drunk, there would have been a wedding, I said with a grin. 1. Everyone burst out laughing, except Judith and Laura, who just smiled, and Ross, who shot me a glare. 1. Rachel laughed too, but after a moment, she exclaimed, hey the laughter only grew louder, filling the balcony with warmth and teasing. Now we need to talk about their wedding, said Chandler, grinning. Your mother and your girl will like the story, he added, nodding toward Judith and Laura. There's not much to talk about, Rachel said, waving her hand as if it were a normal thing. Ross and I were drunk and got married in Vegas. Laura and Judith both laughed at how casually Rachel said it. Jake was there making fun of us the next day, Rachel added, chuckling. We all chuckled, until Mom turned to me with a raised eyebrow and a smile that wasn't really a smile. Did you go to Vegas, young man? She asked sweetly, too sweetly. Everyone around went you teasingly. I turned slowly to Judith. Would you believe if I said no? Judith shook her head with an amused smile. It's not a big deal. I couldn't enter the strip, nor could I bet in the casinos. Believe me, Uncle Charlie tried, even put a fake mustache on me, I said, making everyone burst into laughter. So, for me, it was just a normal city, a very normal shiny city. So you tried to enter the strip? Asked Laura, teasing. There was another loud you from everyone. I lifted my hands innocently. I mean, bet in the casinos. We all laughed again. Laura smiled, knowing I was telling the truth. Ross then said, since we're already talking about weddings and such, we need to tell them about Chandler. We turned to him curiously. When he and Monica had their first fight, Ross continued with a grin. Chandler showed up apologizing, and ended up proposing to Monica. Chandler covered his face with one hand as everyone burst out laughing again. That was embarrassing, said Phoebe, shaking her head. Laura, Judith, and I winced a little in sympathy. Chandler, indignantly, said, I asked for your help too. That's your fault, Chandler. You asked Ross for advice. Obviously, he was going to suggest marriage, I said, grinning. Because that's his answer for everything, added Rachel, pointing at Ross. Both Rachel and I gave each other a high five as everyone burst out laughing again. After a moment, Rachel clarified, I'm not married to Ross anymore. We divorced. 100, that's your thing, said Phoebe suddenly to Ross. What? Asked Ross, confused. Your thing. Your thing. You know? You're the guy who gets divorced, Phoebe said. Oh yeah, everyone else chimed in. No, that's not my thing. I do not love getting divorced, Ross protested. Yes, you do, said Phoebe, pointing at him. This is your third divorce. You love divorce so much you're probably gonna marry it. Then it won't work out and you're gonna have to divorce it. Divorcing guy, she paused and then added, giggling, I'm so drunk. Oh, I got one. I said, but stopped myself. Say it, urged Rachel. Nap, it's even meaner than Phoebe's one, I said. Do it, incited Chandler. I said, I would say, considering the past weddings, that Ross and Rachel's marriage was actually a success. I mean, the bride was too drunk to run away, and the groom got the bride's name right. After all, he just had to repeat the same name as last time. I paused and added with a smirk, and it was also a financial success. It was in Vegas. They didn't need to pay for the party. Ross didn't even pay for a ring. Everyone burst out laughing, even Ross won. After a moment, Rachel turned to me, still smiling, and said, yeah, that was a little mean. Before we could say anything else, the doorbell rang. One of the maids quickly went to answer it. A few moments later, Joey and Uncle Charlie walked in, each with a twin girl on his arm, making their entrance even more lively. I murmured under my breath, how have those two not knocked up some girl yet? For that earned a muffled laugh from Rachel and a reproachful glare from Mom. The next morning, I was sitting at the kitchen island, quietly having breakfast. The early sunlight streamed through the large windows. I had a plate of scrambled eggs, bacon, and toast in front of me, along with a big glass of orange juice. A few minutes later, Rachel stumbled into the kitchen, clearly battling a huge hangover. Her hair was messy and she walked like every step was a challenge. Morning, she mumbled, her voice hoarse. Rachel dropped into the chair across from me with a heavy sigh, resting her head on the table. I am never drinking again, she groaned. I took another bite of toast and muttered, just loud enough for her to hear, you said that after Barbados too. And in Vegas, Rachel just grunted without lifting her head, making me chuckle softly. I slid a small packet of aspirin and ibuprofen toward her and motioned for one of the maids to bring a special juice blend, something for mornings like this. Rachel peeked, accepted the pills gratefully, and downed them with a small grimace. After a few minutes, and a few careful sips of the revitalizing juice, she started looking a little more alive. Rachel then said, you really know how to take care of this stuff. I smiled and replied, I lived for about a year and a half at Uncle Charlie's house, until now. One thing I definitely learned well was how to cure a hangover. Rachel gave a small chuckle. And that day was my laugh tale. Jake D. Harper, Jacob David Harper, 1 Nico Robin finished reading, then looked up. That's it, she said, incredulously, while her eyes were turning in dead fish eyes. Ross, Sanji screamed, biting his shirt. He married 3 girls, one inferno can be others' dreams. This Jake seems super, screamed Frankie, doing his famous pose. He does seem good, agreed Nami. with a berry in her eyes too shishishi. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109, Breakfast. I was still finishing my breakfast when Monica and Chandler appeared in the kitchen, looking almost identical to how Rachel had arrived earlier. Monica was moving carefully, as if any sudden noise might shatter her. Chandler looked equally miserable. They both groaned a greeting and collapsed into chairs around the kitchen island. I slid a small packet of aspirin and ibuprofen toward them and motioned for one of the maids to bring another glass of the special juice, just like I had done for Rachel. Chandler muttered to Rachel and Monica, "If you ever need proof that we're not in our 20s anymore, this is it." I chuckled softly and went back to my breakfast. Not long after, Ross and Phoebe showed up looking just as miserable. Ross was holding his head like it might fall off, and Phoebe moved as if gravity itself had betrayed her. Without saying a word, I made the same preparations for them. A few minutes later, Uncle Charlie stumbled in, looking worse than all of them combined, with one of the twins walking beside him. His steps were slow and exaggerated, like he was walking on a ship in a storm. "Never again," Uncle Charlie grunted. "Never, ever, ever again." One Rachel, still half sprawled on the table, looked at him and asked with a small smirk, "You're gonna quit drinking too?" Charlie shot her a look and replied, "Don't be ridiculous. I'm gonna quit waking up." Right behind him came Joey, with the other twin walking at his side, while he balanced a huge plate of food in his hands, looking completely normal, and annoyingly energetic for this hour. "Morning," Joey said cheerfully. We all looked at him, astonished. "What?" he said, pointing at me. "He said last night I could take the food and eat in bed." One Rachel raised an eyebrow and said, "I don't think that's the problem, Joey." I shook my head and then turned to one of the maids. "Take one of the same, juice and pills, to Mom's room," I said, knowing she would be suffering in silence. Monica looked at me curiously. I shrugged and said, "Mom probably doesn't want me to see her sorry state, like you guys let me see yours." Except for Joey. Finally, the afternoon arrived, and thankfully, everyone had recovered enough to function like normal human beings. Energy was coming back, laughter returned little by little, and the atmosphere shifted from slow suffering to genuine excitement. It was almost time for the premiere. Everyone was dressed impeccably. The women wore elegant long dresses, each more stunning than the last, while the men wore sharp in suits and ties. Joey, in particular, looked like a soap opera heartthrob, making even Monica whistle jokingly as he adjusted his cufflinks with a confident grin. "Let's go, guys," I said with a smile. Everyone gathered near the door, ready to head out for the big night. As we stepped outside, a long black limousine was waiting for us by the driveway. "We're going in a limo?" Joey asked, visibly excited. I patted Joey's back and said, "This is your big day, Joey. We need to do it right." "Wow, thanks, men," he said, a little emotional, smiling wide. Joey had made some roles before, but this was by far his biggest one. And if the movie was even half as successful as the original, it would also be his best-paying project. Like with Carly, Sam, and Freddie, I'm not cheap when it comes to people I know and care about. I smiled at everyone and said, "I will pick Laura with my car. I'll meet you there." Jimmy had parked near the theater but not directly at the red carpet entrance. I was being a gentleman, so I quickly got out and opened the door for Laura, helping her out of the car. She was wearing a stunning dress that caught the late afternoon light beautifully. "This one feels more like a premiere," Laura said with a bright smile. "Yeah," I agreed, offering my arm. Pepper definitely added more glamour to this one, even if it's still considered a low-budget movie. As we approached the entrance, I spotted Pepper talking to a few people who looked important, maybe producers, agents, might even be studio executives. Watching her laugh and gesture confidently, I couldn't help but think, wait, if I'm going to release a bunch of successful movies, isn't Pepper going to end up like those characters in Chinese novels? Like, I'm the Hollywood queen. Yeah, let her have it, I thought with a small smile. For me, music is more than enough. I don't really care much about Hollywood movies besides the money. Nor do I care about that golden bald prize 5. You are thinking something bad, Laura said, looking suspiciously at me. Nope, I said without hesitation. What is up with these women? Yesterday was Rachel. If I said anything about not caring about the golden baldy prize, Laura would probably be mad. You definitely are thinking something bad, Laura insisted, narrowing her eyes at me. Stop fooling around and let's enter the cinema, I said to her. You are the one who is fooling around, she said playfully, bumping my shoulder with hers. We finally entered the cinema. The lighting was elegant, with golden accents and soft music playing in the background. We found our reserved seats easily. I sat down, finding myself between Laura and Rachel. Laura smiled as she adjusted her dress before sitting, while Rachel, already seated, gave me a quick, mischievous smirk. Then, Laura gave me a look. I know, girl, you want to watch the movie, I said, grinning. If not, why would I be here with this giant pot of popcorn? Laura laughed softly, shaking her head. I continued, besides the fact that I know you two are going to keep stealing my popcorn, that's why I grabbed the biggest bucket. Now, both laughed, and as if confirming my theory, both reached into my bucket and grabbed some popcorn. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 110, July Info Dumping. 1 month had passed since the premiere of My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It was now July, the heat of summer wrapping Los Angeles in its usual buzz. I was sitting in a modern but cozy meeting room at one of our office buildings, sipping an iced tea as I looked across the table at Pepper. So, in 1 month, the movie made $83,576,526 in gross revenue domestic and $52,777,170 international, with a total of $136,353,696 worldwide, I said, glancing at the numbers on the report in front of me. And we'll probably let it run for another 2 months in most theaters, I added. After that, the number of screenings usually drops a lot, and Paranormal Activity ended with $298,954,542 worldwide, I continued. Oh, come on, Pepper, we couldn't just buy a few more tickets to close it at $300 million. Pepper looked at me and ignored the question completely, changing the subject without missing a beat. So you're really not going to the premiere? Pepper asked, raising an eyebrow. Nah, I said, shaking my head. And it's not because of the theme, I added, referring to the upcoming Brokeback Mountain premiere too. I don't plan on going to Lost in Translation either, or the horror ones like The Conjuring and Annabelle. 3 They're good movies, sure, but not the kind I want to watch a second time. Even if they might be slightly different from the originals. I shrugged and smiled. I only went to Paranormal Activity and My Big Fat Greek Wedding because I knew some of the actors. Pepper shook her head. You're unbelievable, I rolled my eyes and said, everyone keeps saying that. That became too repetitive, Pepper continued. I sent you almost all the scripts that the Writers Guild of America has for sale. Title and a brief summary. You can pick the next movies to be released. I looked at her and nodded. Pepper probably knows I have some kind of future prediction or something like that. Well, anyone with a brain better than a sitcom comedy would feel suspicious about the 2 movies being dark horses, the songs all being hits, not a single flop, obscene returns on stock investments. And the cherry on top, the absurdity of the bets, with a probability of success close to a lottery ticket won. She knows that I know that she knows. But she never confronted me about it. So it's basically like we have a tacit agreement not to bring up the subject to avoid making things awkward. 5 And we are winning in this relationship. She leans way more toward power, while I lean toward money. Even though the relationship between money and power is symbiotic, people end up having their preferences. Money without power is looking for trouble, and power without money is fragile. So, even if you choose one, you still need the other 3. Pepper broke my train of thought. About Marshmello, we are going to launch the album next week, she said. I nodded. Yet, you would have to be a recluse not to know. It's being advertised everywhere, Pepper just confirmed. There will be 18 songs, more than usual for an album. Analysts are already predicting it will be the best-selling album of the year. I nodded again without showing much reaction. Doesn't surprise me. They're massive hits from the biggest names in electronic music in my past life. Pepper continued, we have already closed the deal with the next big singer, Christina Aguilera. And we are opening negotiations with Britney. 6. Then she added, after that, we can release the premium version with both of them, making an okay gesture. You demon capitalist, I said. Says the one who loves money. And we already told everyone that the premium version would come later. After the meeting, I drove back to Uncle Charlie's house. I found him in the living room, watching TV with a beer in hand. What are you doing? I asked. I'm working, Charlie replied casually. When you still do that? I asked, weirdly surprised. From time to time, he raised an eyebrow and answered. Yet, like almost never, I thought. Uncle Charlie barely worked when I first got here, and after I helped him make even more money, he worked even less. From what I can tell, he still does a jingle or two once in a while, maybe to kill the boredom. Grandma still works. She probably loves it, and it's a way to interact with people. Dad just works the bare minimum, seeing only a few of his longtime patients, the ones he actually likes. Since he doesn't have to pay alimony, not that it would make any dent in my or mom's expenses, he's basically carefree. He also partially moved back into our old house, the one Mom and I were living in before. It's a great place, even if it's nowhere near the level of my house in Santa Monica. We had done a lot of renovations last year and earlier this year, except for the pipes. I said partially, because he still lives here, with Uncle Charlie. That's because I said I didn't want to move out of here, so, on the days I stay, he stays too. They won't admit it, but it brought them closer. Turns out, living alone all the time can be pretty lonely. One Alan then walked in and said, hey Charlie, wanna come to the movies with us? One he can't, he's working, I said. Alan looked at Charlie, sitting with his beer, and said sarcastically, oh what, liver failure, wonderful. Now I have my doctor here, Charlie replied, unamused. Well, they still bicker, though. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh jr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 111, July Vacation. The air was filled with the sound of waves rolling in gently from the ocean, blending perfectly with the soft laughter coming from the group gathered outside. Carly, Sam, Freddie, Cher, Laura, Regina, and I were all sitting on the deck, scattered around a mix of lounge chairs and wooden benches. Drinks in hand, snacks spread across a low table. Laura was curled up beside me, her legs tucked under her as she sipped a cold soda. Carly and Sam were sharing a bag of chips, both occasionally tossing comments back and forth about a show they'd started watching. One Sam stretched with a loud sigh. Vacations are the best. Surprisingly, everything went smoothly, I said, glancing toward Sam. She narrowed her eyes. You wanna say something? No, I replied, holding back a grin. Just happy to have you in the same grade as us in September, the group chuckled. Then Cher turned to me with a smirk. So, Mr. Number 1 from our grade, what's the news? I reached under my chair and pulled out a box, setting it on the deck and opening it with a small flourish. Here's the Marshmallow CD, I said, grabbing a handful and passing them to Laura on my right and another to Cher on my left. Both girls began handing them down to the others, making sure everyone got one. I saw it in the ads, but I think the design looks cool, Laura said. The CD cover was completely white, with just the two eyes and the marshmallow smile. One nothing too creative, but I liked it. One and it even has my autograph. So it's pretty rare, I added with a grin. Pepper made me create an autograph. But I signed very few CDs, only for family, close friends, and a few Pepper specifically asked for. None of them will be commercially sold with an original signature, just the printed one that comes naturally on the cover. Mellow and a smile, Sam said, turning the CD around. The autograph was just the word mellow with two X's and a curve next to it, forming a simple smiling face. Everyone complimented it. Then Carly looked at me curiously. What about the premium version? You still haven't told us what it is. And the ads say it'll include 2 exclusive songs. About that, I said, leaning back a bit. One of the songs will be with Christina Aguilera. That instantly earned a round of excited squeals from the girls. Freddie, on the other hand, stayed quiet, apparently having learned from last time. And the second one? Cher asked. We haven't locked it in yet, I replied. Negotiations are still in the early stages, but we might have some news later this week. Come on, now you need to tell us, said Regina, as I made a show of mystery just to tease them. Okay, I will say it, I said, pausing. But remember, we don't really know if she'll accept. Damn, just say it, said Cher, a little impatient. I laughed and said, Britney, one. Now there were full-on screams, especially from Cher and Regina. A chorus of oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, filled the deck. One after a moment, Laura leaned in and whispered to me, still stunned, you wouldn't have been so mean to say Britney and mean another Britney, not Spears, right? Now, that would be too much? Those two would kill me, I said, glancing at Cher and Regina. I took Laura's hand gently, rubbing my thumb across it. And I'm a singer too. I'd love to have Britney Spears in one of my songs, especially now that she's at the top 2. Okay, let's calm down, I said, trying to pull Cher and Regina back from their full-on fantasy trip. Then I shifted the subject. I need to say, Cher, you did great in the titanium clip, I added. See, I told you I was natural, said Cher, a little pompous. Oh great, we have another Jake, said Sam, joking. What she's not saying, neither is Regina, is that the two of them have been taking acting classes with me for a few months now, Laura revealed, sharing a secret with a sly smile. What? That took me by surprise. And judging by the expressions on Carly, Sam, and Freddie's faces, none of them knew either. Where do you think we've been going on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Cher said with a grin. I don't know, shopping, I guessed, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. The two of them gasped indignantly, but then paused, looked at each other, and said in unison, makes sense. Carly raised an eyebrow. So, you guys want to be actresses? Yes, both Cher and Regina answered at once. We talked with Laura, Cher added. And we know how hard it is, Regina nodded. But we think it's worth giving a try. Huh? I murmured, caught off guard. I remember seeing a few scripts in the packets Pepper sent me about popular girls. Two stood out to me, Clueless and Mean Girls. I'm pretty sure I heard those titles back in my past life. I never actually watched them, didn't even know who the characters were. But I have a weird feeling those movies are perfect for these two. One next year, I think I could test it, see if they can really act in a movie. I glanced at Carly. She seemed more like the spontaneous type. I still think about the iCarly idea. The internet still needs some time to mature, but it could be made into a kids show. I'll talk to Pepper and see what could be done. Laura nudged my shoulder. What are you thinking so deeply? One something that I hope you'll see maybe next year. And might, in the future, involve you, I said with a smile. Laura looked at me, confused. Involve me? What do you mean? I just went and leaned back. You're being cryptic again, she said, nudging me playfully. It's part of the charm, I replied. She rolled her eyes, but smiled, and rested her head on my shoulder. She was enjoying her last few days before going back to Canada. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 112, Old Friend. The next day, I was having breakfast with Charlie when Dad walked in and greeted us. Good morning, Alan said, stepping into the kitchen. He sat down, grabbed an apple, and glanced around casually. Hey, did you know that Rose has a master's degree in psychology? He asked, to no one in particular. I frowned. You dated Rose? Charlie looked over his coffee mug. What's wrong with you? No, we just talked a little bit, Alan replied, brushing off the jab. Berta entered right on cue. Did you know I'm a founding member of the Mile High Club? Alan blinked. Really? Yet. Me and Orville at Kitty Hawk. She walked to the counter, grabbing a cup. I'd have done Wilbur too, but we were only in the air for 90 seconds, Alan chuckled. Okay, you're clearly joking, but that was funny. He paused, then added, looking at Berta but seriously, you and I see each other almost every day, and we barely know anything about one another. Berta raised an eyebrow. So you want to know what goes on beneath this gruff exterior? She crossed her arms. If somewhere inside me there's a tiny little girl, who once dreamed of becoming a famous ballerina, is there? Alan asked, half curious, half shocked. Berta replied deadpan, if there's, it's because I accidentally ate one and haven't passed her yet. She took a sip of coffee. Let me tell you, I am dreading that tiara. Alan stood up, unsure how to respond. Okay. Well, it was nice talking to you. Hey, I feel closer, Berta said as she got up and headed into the other room. Charlie murmured, well, maybe Rose isn't the only one crazy in here. I nodded in agreement. Alan shook his head and said, by the way, a friend of mine is coming over. Remembering something, he stood up and left the room. Moments later, he returned with a book in hand. What's that? I asked, seeing my dad come back with it. My high school yearbook, he replied. Alan sat down and flipped it open. Hey, do you remember a girl named Jamie Eckleberry? He asked Charlie too. Charlie squinted. No, yeah, sure you do, Alan insisted. She used to hang out at the house all the time. Oh, yeah. Eckleberry Hound, Charlie said, suddenly remembering. Alan rolled his eyes. Not a name she was fond of. Charlie raised his hands. Hey, I didn't make it up. I just spread it around. What about her? Alan smiled. She's the friend who's coming over. She called the Alumni Association and tracked me down. Charlie smirked. How does that work? They let her sniff one of your sweaters. Alan rolled his eyes again. She emailed me. She's in town on business, and I invited her over. Charlie leaned back in his chair. Great. I'll get out of your way. Just keep her off the good rug. Alan glared at Uncle Charlie. It is not a date, he added, correcting Uncle Charlie. Well, that just mean, Uncle Charlie, I said, glaring at him. When did you become a goody two-shoes, Jake? Charlie said back. I didn't. But I don't see a reason to be mean to someone just for the sake of being a jackass, I replied. And added with a smirk, she could be someone who ends up helping you with something. Or maybe, she turned into hottie. I doubt it, Charlie murmured. Alan handed the yearbook to me. I looked through it. Which one is her? I asked. Alan leaned over and pointed. I stared at the photo and let out a soft, huh? Charlie raised a single eyebrow and looked at me without saying a word. I cleared my throat. I'm still against saying something rude, I muttered, but the hottie part might be a little difficult. Oh, look, Charlie said, flipping a page. You remember Miss Hanrahan? Sure. I had her for sophomore English, Alan replied. I had her in the teacher's lounge. Charlie smirked. I snorted. Then the doorbell rang. Oh, that's Jamie. Be nice, Alan warned. I'm always nice. Ask Miss Hanrahan, Charlie said with a grin. We all walked into the living room as Alan went to the door and opened it. Alan, Jamie greeted. One Jamie, Alan replied, astonished. Woof, Charlie muttered. Wow, I said, glancing at Charlie with a clear I told you look. Charlie gave me a mocking bow. I bow to your vast wisdom. I stepped forward to greet Jamie with a polite smile and handshake. Charlie followed right after me with his signature charm. After, Uncle Charlie poured a margarita for Jamie and handed Alan a rum and Diet Coke. I looked at the time and turned back to Jamie. It was really nice meeting you, Jamie. I've got to head out, meeting up with some friends. She smiled warmly. Nice meeting you too, Jake. I waved goodbye and walked out the front door. I met up with Laura, Cher, and Regina an hour later near the beach. We walked along the shore for a while, the waves rolling in gently beside us as we talked about random things, upcoming movies, favorite movies, and how good it felt to be outside. We sat down on some beach chairs and kept talking. Eventually, Cher suggested, let's go to this restaurant I know nearby. It's really good. Oh, good. I'm hungry, I said. We headed off toward the nearby street where the restaurant was. It was a fancy place with elegant decor, soft lighting, and a view of the ocean through wide glass windows. Once we were all seated at the table, I looked around at the girls and said with a smile, ask anything, it's all on me. At first, Laura, Freddie, and Carly used to be hesitant when I offered to pay. The thing is, I enjoy eating at fancy places sometimes, and that wasn't always affordable for them, at least not until I gave $2 million. Laura has some money saved from her previous works. But I convinced them it wasn't a big deal for me to pay. Then we all heard a nosy voice from a nearby table. Sit down, Manny. You are not going to confess your love to that girl, someone said. I raised both eyebrows. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 113, Old Friend I raised both eyebrows. I looked over my shoulder and thought, yep, Modern Family again. Just a few feet away were three very familiar faces, Jay, Gloria, And Manny. I lingered a second longer on Gloria 3. Wow, she really is gorgeous. Then I turned back to face forward. The timeline is a mess again. Someone stole that little guy's heart, I said jokingly. Cher and Regina rolled their eyes, while Laura looked a little amused. Then the waiter came by to take our orders. Each of us picked something from the menu, and I went with my favorite, Kobe beef. Anyone gonna travel in August? Regina asked. Besides Laura, she added a little awkwardly, as if suddenly remembering that Laura would be going back in August. You don't need to be awkward, we're all good, I said, and Laura nodded beside me. I'm going to Europe. This time Portugal and Spain, Cher said. I so envy you, Cher, Regina replied. My dad wants me to go with him to China on some business trip, and I envy both of you, Laura said jokingly. I'll be working for part of August, I might go to Japan, I added. But I'm not so sure, Pepper told me there's going to be a party there for Lost in Translation. She asked if I want to go. I might, because Japan is definitely a country I want to visit too. That little creepy is still staring at us, Regina whispered. He's like 9 or 10. What is wrong with him? Cher added. I lightly smacked the table, startling all three of them just a bit. That's it, I said seriously, turning around. Hey, boy, I called out to Manny with a straight face, making him flinch. Then I broke into a mischievous grin. Which one of the three did you like? Ouch, 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 I muttered as both Cher and Regina kicked me under the table and Laura pinched my arm. I looked innocently at the three of them. What? I was curious. They roughed and laughed afterward, one with a playful smirk. Cher said, what if he said he liked Laura? I'd say, welcome to the team, I replied. She'll be back to Canada soon. She'll break our little hearts. Ouch, Laura pinched my arm again. I turned to Regina with a humorous smile. You say little creepy, but he could turn into a hunk in 10 years. Four looked at his mother too. Regina gave Manny another brief glance. I highly doubt it, she said afterward too. I leaned back a bit and grinned. You say that now, but this morning I saw a perfect example of transformation. My dad's old friend Jamie came over. Back in the day, she was, let's say, not exactly prom queen material. But now? A stunner. Even Uncle Charlie couldn't hide the surprise on his face. We kept talking about it for a while. Then Cher said, your Uncle Charlie was a menace to her. But from that brief moment you saw this morning, you think she wants him? Yeah, she had that look, I said. The three of them exchanged glances, and finally Regina said, if I were in her place, I'd tease your uncle until he admitted he wanted me, then I'd dump him in that moment. Wow, that's quite the revenge for him, I murmured, not questioning Regina's wisdom too. We spent the rest of the day walking around and talking, just enjoying each other's company. As night fell, I headed back to Uncle Charlie's house. Just as I stepped into the entryway, I walked into the middle of a heated scene. Will you both just shut up? Jamie snapped. You're ruining everything. Nice going, Alan said. Nice going, Charlie echoed. Say it, Charlie, Jamie demanded. Say what? Charlie asked. Say that slick, cool Charlie Harper finally wants Eckleberry Hound. You knew about that name, Charlie blinked. That name scarred me for life, Jamie shot back. It's the reason I haven't eaten a carbohydrate since college. Well, you do look good, Charlie offered. You're damn right I look good, you smug, shallow son of a BTCH. I have spent years working and sweating and dreaming about a day that I would be able to rub your smarmy nose in it. Okay, I'm getting mixed signals here, Charlie muttered. This is the signal, Charlie, you can't have this. Not now, not ever. Never, 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 Jamie screamed. I didn't make up the Eckleberry Hound thing, Charlie defended. But you did spread it around, Alan chimed in. I was always your friend, oh, please. I spent years throwing myself at you, friend. Playing stupid nerd games on my bed with my shirt open, buddy. Hoping that you would kiss me or touch me, or at least notice me as a woman, pal. You knew your shirt was open, Alan asked. Who do you think opened it? Jamie snapped. But I wasn't pretty enough for you. You wanted Donna DeMarco, or Maxine Chernikov, just because they had big boobs, and no excess facial hair. Alan stepped forward, looking regretful. Jamie, I had no idea. I am so sorry. I was a stupid teenager. I guess I just didn't appreciate you then. I guess not, Jamie replied coldly. But that was a long time ago. I'm not a stupid teenager anymore. Do you think maybe you could forgive me, and maybe we could try again? Jamie raised her chin. Is that what you really want, Alan? Very much. Well, eat your heart out. You can never have this. Never, 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 she screamed again and stormed off. I took a step aside. Charlie looked to the side and muttered, well, I guess we know why she's still single. Then he noticed me standing there. Oh, look who's back, Charlie said, nodding toward me. Well, I said, stepping in, Regina was totally right. But it didn't go as planned. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 114, Twin Eye. It had been 2 days since Marshmello's album dropped. The morning sun was coming in through the windows, casting a soft light over everything. That morning, I was at Carly's house. The four of us, me, Laura, Carly, and Sam, were sprawled out on the living room watching TV. Bella, Carly's dog, was resting her head in my lap. On the TV, a street reporter was speaking with a bright smile. Marshmello's album, Joytime, has already sold over 2.5 million copies, breaking several records and turning into a multi-platinum album in just 2 days. The shot switched to a reporter standing next to a long line of buyers outside a music store. As you can see, she said, holding her mic and gesturing behind her, even after 2 days, there are still lines forming to buy his album. The camera then cut back to the studio, where the anchor turned to a seated commentator. It's clearly an immense phenomenon, the anchor said. Tell us a bit more about the album, would you? The commentator nodded. The Joytime album has 18 tracks, more than usual, including Free Zone and Titanium featuring Sia, I Need Your Love, Burnin' Outside featuring Ellie Goulding, and On the Floor featuring J. Lo, and he finished, Happier, Alone, Faded, Hear Me Now, Waiting for Love, Summer, Blame, Wake Me Up, The Nights, My Way, Fast Cars, and Are You With Me? One I thought to myself, The Nights, Avicii, My Way, Calvin Harris, Fast Car, Jonas Blue, and Are You With Me? Lost Frequencies. Those last four were used to promote the album. The anchor then asked, and are we still no closer to knowing who Marshmello really is? The commentator replied, yes. Months ago, every week a new name would pop up. Now, it's daily. So even if the real Marshmello came forward, would we actually believe it? The anchor followed up, would we need an official statement from the company that manages him? Even that might not be enough, the commentator answered. The company has already made statements like might be this one, maybe this one is, or no, this time this one can possibly be. They would need to launch a major campaign, clearly revealing the name, to make everyone believe it. I chuckled. Yeah, Susie, my PR commander, is a troll. She will probably hit me if I said this to her. Well, she said that in this scenario, the best thing is to just play dumb. Besides, Regina's dad is friends with Rupert Murdoch, and Pepper has other powerful connections. That kind of strategy hasn't caused any major backlash from Marshmello. The anchor leaned in slightly. What about the premium version of the CD? Any updates on that? The commentator smiled. The release is scheduled for mid-August, and we've got some hot news about one of the tracks. It will feature Christina Aguilera. The recording with Christina Aguilera was done yesterday, with the song Feel This Moment, Pitbull. Pepper purposely leaked this info too. Still makes me numb sometimes, that it's you, Laura said, looking at me. Yes, Carly agreed. So many people trying to figure it out, and he's right here, with my dog in his lap, she added. Nah, I think it's okay, Sam said, completely unfazed, by my side. Laura turned to her. So, Sam, what's going on with you? Want to talk about it? Sam had been acting a little different this morning. She roughed a little and said, my sister's coming home for a few days and I'm peeved off about it. Okay, it's just 3 days. You can deal with it, Carly chimed in. Wait? You have a sister? I asked, surprised, turning my head to her. Yeah, Melanie, Sam replied. This isn't one of your pranks, like the ones you pulled on Freddie, is it? I asked. Freddie is very gullible, so Sam pranked him a few times this vacation, all harmless. No, she really has a sister, Carly said. But Sam hates to talk about her. Laura and I gave her the same exact look, an unspoken why. My twin goes to a fancy boarding school, on a scholarship, she gets perfect grades, never gets in trouble, always has clean hair. She makes me sick, Sam explained. Oh, come on, she's sweet, Carly argued. Wait, I said, raising a hand. There's a twin of Sam, and we got the bad one. Sam gave me a few light punches. I'm joking, I added quickly, pulling her into an embrace. After I let her go, I said, I don't know if I want to meet her. A nerdy goody two-shoes Sam? EWW, gives me the creeps. One right, Sam agreed enthusiastically. We bumped fists and followed it up with a high five. You two, what am I gonna do with you two? Carly murmured, shaking her head. Just then, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and saw Pepper's name. Sorry, guys, I said, standing up. I gotta take this. I stepped out of the room to answer the call. Hi, Pepper. Hello, Jake. I'm calling to talk about the deal with Brittany. There are two things. First, she liked both songs we offered, the feature on Symphony, Clean Bandit, and Toxic. But she wants to keep Toxic as her own and have you feature in it instead. I'm okay with that, I said. Toxic was probably Britney's most famous song, and it didn't blend that well with Marshmello's sound. Not that I was trying too hard to make everything fit. Burn and On the Floor didn't either. One and the second, I asked. That's more of a personal request, Pepper replied. She wants to meet you, without the helmet. She's even willing to sign NDAs with very specific clauses. Huh? That caught me off guard. I don't really know what to think about it. I'm not against it. What's your opinion, Pepper? I talked to Susie, she said. We think it could be a good move to build a relationship with her. And if she does something stupid, we already have countermeasures ready to defuse the situation. It's your call, but you don't need to decide now. The first point was the main one to close the deal. That part we can sign. If you're not comfortable with a meeting later, we can cancel it, okay? That went faster than I expected, I said. Jake, you sold 2.5 million copies in 2 days. Even she can't do that. And her plan is to release her album later this year, after finishing recording in August. Her agent was the one who encouraged her to accept the deal. Any idea of a song Britney could sing, feat? The ones I picked feels a bit off. There will be more in the future, but it is what it is. 9 support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh jr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 115, Twins II. After the call with Pepper ended, I stood still for a moment in the hallway. I pocketed my phone and walked back into Carly's living room. The girls were still lounging, Bella quietly resting in her spot. Good news, I said, while patting Bella's head. But the reaction wasn't what I expected. They just looked at me briefly, then went back to what they were doing. After a moment, I raised an eyebrow and said, a little indignant, no one's going to ask. The three of them laughed. We already know you, suspense boy, Sam said, mocking. And if I said it's about Britney singing, what are you gonna do? I shot back, grinning. What? They all screamed at once. Laura immediately scooted closer to me, eyes wide. Sam leaned in too, nearly shoulder to shoulder. Carly stood up and walked over, positioning herself right in front of me. We closed the deal. It will be 2 songs, I said. We're gonna meet Britney, Laura asked excitedly. Yes, pretty cool, huh? I replied with a smile. The 4 of us kept chatting about it, and other random things, until eventually Laura and I got up. See you later at the smoothie store, I asked. Yes, Carly said. Where are you going? Sam asked. We're gonna enjoy our last days, I said, then made some obnoxious kissing noises too. Sam kicked me, Carly booed, and even Bella barked in protest when I gasped in mock betrayal. Even you, Bella, one come on, Laura said, laughing as she pulled me by the arm. After a while, Laura and I made our way to the smoothie store. Just as we were approaching, we saw Sam walking out with a large smoothie in hand. She raised an eyebrow at us. Took you long enough. We exchanged quick goodbyes, then headed inside. Freddie and Carly were already there, sitting at one of the corner tables. As soon as they saw us, Carly waved us over. We walked up and sat down with them and ordered 2 smoothies. Just moments later, a girl who looked exactly like Sam walked out from the bathroom. Hey, Freddie, she said with a bright smile. You must be Melanie. I'm Jake, I said, offering a friendly smile. Laura followed up, giving a small wave. Hi, I'm Laura. Oh, not you too, Freddie muttered, shaking his head. Where's Sam? Melanie asked. Oh, She had to go back, Carly replied. Yes. And isn't it interesting how Sam had to leave right before you showed up here, Freddie added, narrowing his eyes to Melanie. Is he still on this? Melanie sighed. Oh, Carly said, nodding. I will say it's impressive that you changed your clothes and hair so fast, Freddie continued. Freddie, I'm really Melanie. I'm really Sam's sister, she said. Oh, are you? Freddie challenged. I am, Melanie insisted. Anyway, I gotta go meet my mom at the clinic, she added as she stood up. Wait, he said. Since you're Melanie, how would you like to go on a date with me this Saturday night? Oh, Melanie blinked. Well, that'd be really cool. I'd love to. Oh, you, really? Freddie asked, surprised. Sure, Melanie replied. Okay then, okay. Bye, she said with a smile. And the two of them walked out together. Freddie needed to go too, making the moment a little more awkward. What just happened? Laura asked, intrigued. My boy's all grown up, I said with a proud smile. He has a date tomorrow, Carly finally snapped out of her daze. Wow, that came out of nowhere. Carly, explain please, I asked, turning to her. Freddie thinks we're pranking him. And Melanie is fake, like it's Sam in disguise, Carly explained. Yeah, that's what I was guessing, I said, nodding. And you didn't think of warning him? Laura asked, raising an eyebrow. I don't see the harm in it, I shrugged. He even got a date, we all laughed. On Saturday night, Laura and I went to a teen-friendly party. No alcohol was being served. Cher and Regina couldn't come because they had to travel with their families. Laura was sitting beside me at a large table filled with members of the football team. Terrence was right next to us, still wearing his Letterman jacket. The party was in celebration of the football team's big win earlier that afternoon. They had just clinched the regional championship. I leaned back and waved at a passing waitress. Come on, bring more food, please, I said, even though the table already looked like a medieval tavern banquet. Don't we have enough food? Laura asked, surprised. Are you not seeing these orcs? I laughed, glancing at Terrence and the rest of the team. Come on, guys, let's eat. There's more to come, I shouted. That earned a round of cheers and a few loud hoops from around the table. Now you're like a shaman orc, Laura said playfully. When did you become a nerdy? I asked, surprised. When I know a thing or two, Laura replied with a wink. Then Terrence leaned toward me and pointed across the room. Isn't that Freddie and Sam? He asked, nodding toward a distant spot near the long couches. From where we were, far from the dance floor and lounging areas, I could see two familiar figures sitting together in conversation. Not really, that's Melanie, Sam's twin sister, I replied casually. Then I added, hey, Terrence, do me a favor. Tell the boys if some idiot tries to interrupt those two, to kick his ass. One you betcha, Terrence said, cracking his knuckles with both fists. After a good while of eating, most of the guys now had a girl sitting beside them. Terrence was with a really tall girl, though she still looked small next to him. Then, a slow song started playing. Laura stood up and gently pulled me with her toward the dance floor. While we danced, she leaned in and whispered, "You're dancing well, it's not just Regina and Cher who've been taking secret lessons," I replied with a chuckle. Dancing isn't just useful for a singer like me, it's also for moments like this. As we swayed, I glanced across the room and spotted Freddie and Melanie sharing a kiss too, and he scores, I muttered with a grin. When Laura laughed softly and leaned closer. You'd rather watch your friend kiss someone, or kiss me? I didn't say a word, I just kissed her. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, Twins III. The next day, Laura, Carly, and I were at my place in Santa Monica. I can't believe you didn't go, Carly, I said, referring to the party last night. I was with Sam, Carly replied with a shrug. And Sam didn't want to go to the same place that Melanie was, she murmured, and see her dating Freddie. About that, I said, they kissed. There were a lot of people at the party, Carly, and the rest would hear about it sooner or later. It's not like they were being discreet about it, especially kissing right in the middle of the dance floor. They did, Carly said, astonished. Just then, the doorbell rang. A moment later, Freddie appeared at the door. Look who's here, I said with a grin. Freddie stepped in and greeted everyone with a wave. Noticing he looked a little awkward, I asked, "What is it, Freddie?" "I can't believe I kissed Sam for the second time," he replied. "You kissed Sam?" Laura asked, trying to sound surprised. We all looked at her, and she quickly added, "Yeah, Jake is better at this, even though I'm the actress." "Now you're slandering me," I said. "And no, Freddie. You kissed Melanie. Can we stop this?" Freddie said, clearly still thinking it was a prank. "Freddie, Melanie is real," I said. "They'll be here soon." Freddie looked a bit skeptical, but we kept chatting casually until the doorbell rang again. Moments later, Sam and Melanie appeared. Melanie greeted everyone with a cheerful hi, while Sam gave a more subdued hello. "There are two of them," Freddie said, astonished. "One, yeah, and you kissed both," I murmured close to him to Carly, who was beside me, jabbed me in the ribs. Freddie glared at me but then gave a small smile and murmured, "Yeah, I did." The six of us sat down, gathering around the table. Sam immediately began attacking the food that was laid out, wasting no time at all. "How could you make out with Freddie, Melanie?" she said through a mouthful. Freddie choked on his drink. "What? He's adorable," Melanie replied, glancing at him with a playful smile. He coughed a bit and turned red with embarrassment. "I can't believe you two are sisters," Carly said. "Me neither," they both responded in unison. "You know, one time she tried to convince me I was adopted," Melanie added afterward too. We all laughed about that. "So are there any more secrets we need to know about your family, Sam?" I asked. "Not that I can remember," Sam replied, though her tone didn't exactly convince anyone. Melanie chimed in, "I don't know what you already know about our family, but here's a fun fact. Our mom also has an identical twin." "Three, huh?" "It is a fun fact," I repeated absent-mindedly. The six of us ended up talking the whole afternoon away. In the blink of an eye, the end of July arrived, and with it, the recording with Brittany. Pepper and I were gathered in one of the many recording studios at the facility. This particular studio belonged to one of our subsidiaries, JDS, a joint venture between JD Company and Sony Music. We held 51% of the shares. As Pepper always said, we didn't need to compete on every front. Sometimes, it was smarter to partner with a giant one, and with our 10-year agreement in place, I wasn't worried about being swallowed later. 10 years from now, forget about a subsidiary like Sony Music. I could probably buy Sony entirely. 3. We've already signed with Evanescence, Justin Timberlake, who, until recently, was part of the boy band NSYNC, and Maroon 5, which regrouped and added James Valentine to their lineup. 3. Also, Avril Lavigne, who fired Cliff Fabry and signed with us instead, Recording Plus agent. 2. Thus, no famous artists yet. But out of all of them, the most debatable would be Maroon 5, considering, I'll be singing their songs before they even release them. It's not stealing if they never had it. So, my big fat Greek wedding passed $330 million worldwide, I asked Pepper. Yes. Brokeback Mountain is nearing $90 million worldwide, she replied. It's because of prejudice. Why can't everyone be like me? I don't care what people do with their own holes at home, I just want to take their money. I mean, sell something, and then take their money, I added with a smirk. 3. Pepper just rolled her eyes but added, but Brokeback Mountain was very well received by the critics. We might ever win an Oscar. 3. I went to get dressed in the marshmallow outfit. A few minutes later, I came back fully suited. Jake, have you decided? Pepper asked. Yes, I'm going to introduce myself to her, I said. But it needs to be done with a proper ta-da, pulling off the helmet. At that moment, more people entered the studio, Cher, Regina, Laura, Carly, Sam, and Freddie. Right behind them came the adults, Charlie, Alan, Judith, and Evelyn. I walked over to Cher and Regina. You two are incredibly calm, I said, surprised. We're tired, Cher corrected. Pepper introduced us to your personal trainer and said we could only come if we worked out with her this morning. Wow, you met that demon, I said with pity. Yes, I had a personal trainer. She is a demon. But the results are excellent. I glanced down at myself. 3. She made us run 10 laps, Regina said with fake teary eyes. Then the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. Brittany walked into the room alone. Before Cher and Regina could scream, I quickly covered their mouths with my hands. But then, everyone heard a high-pitched, girlish scream of "It's Britney." My eyes twitched. Everyone turned toward the source of the shout. I'm sorry, Alan said, noticeably embarrassed. I facepalmed in my helmet. 1. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 117, Recording Day. Everyone turned back toward Britney, who paused for a second, slightly amused by the awkward silence that followed Alan's outburst. It's okay, she said with a polite smile. I'm used to enthusiastic welcomes. Alan nodded nervously. Judith gave him a sideways glare, and Charlie muttered, that's going in the family history. I took a step forward. Hi, I said. I'm Marshmallow, one Britney Spears, she replied, shaking my hand. Her eyes lingered on the marshmallow helmet for a moment, then she hesitated. Can you take the helmet off? I can, but please don't share it, I said. I wouldn't. I gain nothing from it. On the contrary, the fine and those clauses are kind of Spartan, she replied with a mildly offended tone. I slowly lifted the helmet, revealing my face. Britney's eyes widened in surprise. She blinked, then narrowed her gaze with a puzzled expression. Tilting her head slightly, she said, I'm sorry, but who are you? I gasped. A few muffled laughs were heard around the room. Cher and Regina couldn't hold back and burst into soft giggles. I'm Jake Harper, I said. And you're totally right. I'm not someone famous. And I don't want to be anytime soon. That's why the mask. Damn it, I thought you were someone I would know. Britney replied, a little frustrated. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that, she added quickly. Nah, it's okay. I'd feel the same if I were in your shoes, I said. I know this has already been discussed, but are you comfortable interacting with everyone here? If you're feeling uneasy, it's fine. I'm already used to it, Britney said with a smile. Because I'm the one starting to feel uncomfortable. Feels like there are hungry eyes staring at my back, I joked, making Britney laugh a little. Come on, let me introduce everyone, I said. That's Cher and Regina, I pointed, as they barely held back their excitement. Over there are Carly, Freddie, Sam, and Laura. Then I turned slightly and gestured toward the others. And those are my family, Alan, Charlie, Judith, and Evelyn. Pepper spoke up. Let the two of them go into the booth. Later, if there's time and Britney agrees, we can all talk more. I nodded, and the two of us entered the booth. You're different from what I expected, Britney said as she settled into her spot. I thought you were older. Are you like 16 or 17? She asked, eyeing me curiously. I'm 13, but my birthday is this weekend, I replied. What? You're 13, Britney said, visibly shocked. So where is all this music coming from? She asked, still trying to process it. I'm a genius, I said, without blinking. She narrowed her eyes slightly. But some of them, like Toxic, for example, are, whoa, let's not talk about difficult things, I interrupted quickly. Why couldn't she just be clueless about this like everyone else? Where's the sitcom logic in her? Too okay, she said, nodding slowly. But can we start with Toxic? She asked. I really liked that song, I nodded, and we stepped into place. Then Britney began to sing, Baby, can't you see I'm calling? A guy like you should wear a warning, it's dangerous, I'm falling. Unlike the original, Toxic now carried a more electronic beat, an unmistakable marshmallow touch pulsing beneath Britney's vocals. After that, we moved on to Symphony. Later that evening, everyone was back at the house in Malibu. I was watching Cher and Regina with a look of pure satisfaction on their faces. These two, I murmured while I was resting my head in Laura's lap. And what about Jake's birthday party this Sunday? Sam asked, snapping them both out of their daydream. It will be incredible, said Cher. The best party anyone in our school has ever seen. Yes, we already hired everything, and we have a backup too, said Regina. How many people are actually coming in the end? I asked. You don't know, Freddie said, astonished. 400 people, Cher answered. Regina added, most of them are from our school, but there will be plenty of people from other schools too, only the popular ones, she added with a smirk. The day before my birthday, I was at the Santa Monica house with Laura. The sun had already begun to set. We were lying on the couch. I grabbed the DVD. Hey, Come on, let's watch it on the TV, I said, getting up and walking over to connect it. The screen lit up, and the video started with last year's clip, Alan, Charlie, and me singing Men 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 Men, Manly Men. Right after that, the second video began. It had the same theme song, but it was clear I had grown since the first. This time, the three of us were each holding a top hat, passing it from one to another in a kind of choreographed goofiness. The background was a bright blue sky. One cool, right, I said, glancing at Laura with a grin. This is a family men tradition now. Days before my birthday, I record with my dad and my uncle. That is, actually nice, Laura said, surprised. I thought it was a little lame at first, but it's actually pretty cute. Cute, I gasped dramatically. Did you hear the song? It's Manly Men, we both laughed, teasing each other playfully. Then my phone buzzed with a message. I reached over, picked it up, and checked the screen. Hey Laura, can you help me with something? I asked. Sure, she said. I handed her my phone and pointed to the screen. Her eyes widened as she read. You're texting with Brittany, she said, shocked. Yeah, we exchanged numbers, check the other messages, I said casually. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 118, 14. Laura tapped through the messages on my phone, her mouth slightly open. She's funny, she said, raising an eyebrow. And actually, really sweet, I nodded. Yeah, I was surprised too. She's more down to earth than I thought, but what do you think? I asked. Laura gave me a playful look. What exactly do you want my opinion on? Whether she's flirting with you, she joked. No. That would be a little creepy. I told her that I'm 13, and I'll be 14 tomorrow. Brittany is 19 years old. Besides, I didn't feel any flirting going on, I said quickly. And I wouldn't ask you something like that anyway, I added. I know, I'm just kidding, Laura said, smiling. Honestly, you don't even look 13. You could easily pass for 16 or 17. The way you text is definitely not how a 13-year-old would write. Whether it's the content or the way you express yourself. By the way, everyone doesn't know you're 13, right? Laura asked. Yeah, I said with a mischievous smile. They're going to be surprised, I laughed. And about Brittany, I questioned again. Laura gave her opinion thoughtfully. She seems a little lonely. I'd say that in the music world, you tend to have fewer connections with your peers compared to the acting side of things. One, she's been famous since she was young, I added. I think she wants a friend, Laura continued. That day, you didn't ogle her or treat her differently. And in your messages, you talked to her normally too, not eager to impress or flatter her. That was our idea, I said. Having a friendship with another star. But now that I think about it, it seems a little troublesome, Laura laughed. You must be one of the few people who think being friends with Brittany is troublesome. You lazy bum, she said, nudging me playfully. Then we kissed. The next morning, my birthday finally arrived. Today, I was officially 14. Cher, Regina, Freddie, Sam, Carly, and Laura arrived at 8 in the morning. Cher and Regina wore stylish sunglasses. Freddie, Sam, and Carly followed close behind, chatting excitedly as they walked up the steps. Birthday boy in the house, Sam announced loudly, throwing her hands up. Happy birthday, Jake, Carly said, handing me a small wrap box. The others chimed in with birthday wishes. Laura leaned in and gave me a quick kiss on the lips. You guys didn't have to come this early. No, we need to make sure everything is fine, Regina replied, receiving a nod from Cher. We came to help too, Laura, Carly, and Freddie said almost in unison. I came for the breakfast. Sam smirked when I laughed at Sam's honesty and waved them all inside. I had already spoken to the maid about them coming early, so a full breakfast banquet was nearly ready in the dining room, the smell of fresh pastries and warm waffles already filling the air. That's when Alan and Judith appeared, both smiling warmly as they walked in. Happy birthday, son, Alan said, giving me a hug. Judith stepped forward with a warm smile and wrapped me in a gentle hug too. Then she went to the kitchen and returned with a small birthday cake. I thought we could sing happy birthday now too, Judith said kindly. Since you're with your closest friends, it could be something more private and special. Alan stood nearby with the video camera already recording. capturing everything with a proud smile on his face. Everyone stood up to sing happy birthday, even Sam set down her pastry to join in. But just as Judith started placing the candles on the cake, Regina narrowed her eyes. "Wait, why are you putting a 14-year-old candle?" she asked, confused. "I'm turning 14, I said without blinking. "You're 14, Carly," Sam, Freddie, Regina, and Cher all screamed at once. "How come you're 14? Sam blurted out, eyes wide in disbelief. I turned to Sam and said, "Well, when you're born in 1987 and have a birthday in 2001, you turn 14, do you want a beating, birthday boy?" Sam said, mocking me. "Wait, what? You're 14? I thought you turned 16, Cher said, shocked. "You know what that means?" she asked. I leaned closer to Cher and Regina, lowering my voice just enough. "That means you two were cougars." Both of them gasped indignantly. "We bought you a car, you prat," Regina shot back. "You bought my son a car," Alan said, surprised, still holding up the video camera and filming everything. "Don't worry, I have a driver, remember," I said. "But it's a sports car," Cher added. "There are only 2 seats." "That would be lame," I said, stepping forward to hug them both. As I leaned in, I whispered, "That really makes you two seem like cougars." They both jabbed me in the ribs at the same time. "Come on, don't be mad at me," I said, putting on my best puppy eyes. Cher and Regina exchanged a look. "Just because you introduced us to J.Lo," Regina began. "And Christina Aguilera," Cher added. "And Britney," Regina finished. They both squealed. "We forgive you, our baby friend," Regina said, pinching one of my cheeks. "Yes, our little bean sprout," Cher said, pinching the other. "Get out, you beaches," I said, laughing as they continued teasing me. "How come you're in 9th grade?" Carly asked, still piecing things together. "I jumped 2 years," I said casually. "He could have gone to college if he wanted," Alan added proudly, still behind the camera, clearly bragging. "To what?" everyone yelled in unison. "To support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 119, The Birthday Party. "Wow, I knew you were smart," Carly said, still blinking in disbelief. "But seriously, wow," Judith clapped her hands with a gentle smile. "I think it's time we sing happy birthday." Everyone gathered closer, forming a loose circle around the small cake as Judith carefully lit the candles. Cher and Regina stood on either side of me, still mock glaring, while Laura held on to my arm with a soft smile. The group began singing happy birthday, slightly off-key but full of warmness. After the singing and breakfast, Cher and Regina exchanged a look. Regina was the first to speak. "We've already set up 35 portable toilets. Even though the venue has spacious bathrooms, we thought it'd be better to add more." She glanced at Cher, who nodded in agreement. 20 security guards were also hired, Regina continued, "and they'll be positioned throughout the house, especially in the party hall." She went on, "There will be 4 people, in addition to your maids, making sure everything stays clean, 35 waiters, and 1 DJ for the entire party." Cher continued, "We also set up food carts, a mocktail island with alcohol-free drinks made with fruits and decorations, a game area with an air hockey table, foosball, and arcade machines," and both of them said together, "and many photos booths." I smiled and said, "I love you, my little bees." By 2 p.m., everything was ready and set up to welcome the guests. I looked around at everything with a smile on my face. I spotted Sam already at the cotton candy station, grabbing a big one for herself. I turned to Carly and asked, "How can she eat so much? And where does all that food even go to?" "I don't know either," Carly said, amused. Even though the party was supposed to start at 3 p.m., some guests had already begun to arrive. Terrence, Parker, and the rest of the football team showed up early and came over to congratulate me with wide smiles and loud cheers. By the time it was close to 3 p.m., there were already over 100 guests. Music was playing loudly, and at that moment, Destiny's Child was blasting through the speakers. I greeted people at first, but quickly slipped away, otherwise, I'd be stuck there all afternoon. I left the job of welcoming guests to a few waiters and security staff. I was sitting in what Cher proudly called the VIP area. With me were Laura by my side, Carly, Freddie, Terrence, and Regina. Cher and Sam were off somewhere else. Regina leaned in and whispered in my ear while Destiny's Child played, "You could get a song with Beyoncé." I laughed and shook my head. Still, I couldn't help but think, I could get Beyoncé after she left Destiny's Child too. After a few more minutes, more and more people arrived. I took a quick walk around, greeting a few guests and receiving the birthday wishes before heading back to the table. Yet, there are some I never saw before. "And if you don't even know it's my birthday," I said, looking around. "I told you to put a giant photo of yourself at the entrance," Cher chimed in, earning laughter from everyone at the table. "So what are we gonna do now?" asked Laura. "There's going to be a Dance Dance Revolution competition soon," Carly replied. "Let's go," I told, already getting up. But just before we could head out, two familiar faces appeared. "Hey Missy." "Sheldon. Nice you came," I said, looking at the two of them. Missy gave me a warm hug. "Happy birthday," she said with a smile. Then she looked around, visibly surprised by the size and vibe of the party. "What is all this?" she asked. "Cool, right?" "Totally," Missy replied with a wide smile. "Congratulations," said Sheldon, visibly uncomfortable with the setting. "Thank you, Sheldon," I muttered under my breath. How come Sheldon wears adult clothes when he's 13, and ends up dressing like a child when he's an adult? 2-0, right. "Here, C3PO, I added, handing him a key. "What is this?" said Sheldon. "It's a key. It opens doors," I said, pretending to teach him. "I know what a key is," he replied, outraged. "Why are you giving me a key? You can enter the house and show it to one of the security guards. He'll take you to the room that key opens. I know you don't like crowded places, so you can stay there. There are video games, books, and more. Though, I might send one or two people your way eventually." Missy jabbed Sheldon lightly with her elbow. "I appreciate your consideration," he replied with his usual formality. "So?" asked Sam, appearing beside us and curious about who they were. "Missy, these are my friends, Carly, Sam, Freddie, Regina, Cher, and Laura," I said, introducing them. Then I added, "I met them at a genius meeting. I skipped 2 grades, but they went straight to college." Missy jumped in. "He's talking about my twin brother, Sheldon. He's at Caltech." "I'm normal," she then asked. "And what about Paige?" "I invited her," I replied. Even told her I'd cover her flight again, but she never gave me a clear answer. "You have a nerdy, goody two-shoes twin," said Sam with a smile. "I think we're gonna get along just fine." She walked off with Missy. "Yours is a prodigy, mine are identical twins. Wonder which is worse," Sam added as they walked together. "She has a massive crush on you," Laura said playfully, looking to Missy. "Who doesn't?" I replied with a grin. Laura kicked me lightly and stuck out her tongue. "Too bad, you're mine today," I laughed and turned to everyone. "Alright, let's head to the dance competition. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 120, The Birthday Party II. The dance floor was already set up when we arrived, bright lights, speakers booming, and 5 Dance Dance Revolution arcade machines lined up side by side. A woman stood nearby with a clipboard, marking down each winner and updating a scoreboard on the wall. A crowd had started to gather, forming a semicircle around the setup. Carly was the first to jump up onto the stage. "I call first round. Who's brave enough to face me?" Freddie raised his hand. "Let me show you what I got." "You sure?" Carly smirked. "Because I don't plan on going easy." I stayed back with Laura, watching as the two of them picked their songs and prepared to start. At that moment, Charlie showed up and gave me a quick hug. "Happy birthday, kid," he said with a grin. "Thank you, Uncle Charlie," I replied. "You don't need to stay. It's a teens party, there aren't any single moms here. I'll stay until the cake," he said. Then he leaned in and added with a smirk, "But there are some beautiful waitresses, attendants, and even a beauty security guard." I laughed. "Just don't make too much trouble." As time passed, the party kept getting better. At one point, there was even a tug-of-war game happening in the pool, 3 people on each side, pulling with all their strength until one team inevitably splashed into the water. "Want to compete?" asked Carly, nudging me. "Nah, I'd call Terrence and Carter, my bodyguard, the mountain." "That would be unfair. You are no fun," Laura said, rolling her eyes playfully. "I hear someone screaming Haley," over here. I just ignored as the nosy were everywhere too. When 6 p.m. finally arrived, it was time for the cake and birthday song. I looked at the towering, multi-tiered cake that had just been rolled out and blinked. Am I getting married? I joked, staring at what looked more like a wedding cake than a birthday one. Charlie leaned in and murmured, well, it seems a little small to have someone inside. I scoffed and laughed. That was Sam's idea, said Cher, stepping closer to me. You let Sam choose the cake? I asked, raising an eyebrow. We didn't have a better idea. And we thought it would be funny, and then, everyone began singing happy birthday, voices rising together until the song ended in cheerful applause. A few voices from the crowd immediately called out for a speech. Regina appeared with a microphone in hand. Here, birthday boy, she said, handing it to me with a grin. I took the mic and walked up to the small platform where the DJ was set up. Turning to face the crowd, I spoke into the mic. I want to thank everyone for being here. It means a lot to me. A special thanks to Cher and Regina, who made this whole party happen, I added, lifting my hand toward them. Can we give them a big round of applause? Applause and cheers were heard. I'm not going to drag this out. Let's keep the party going. And right now, I'm kicking off the singing competition, I said with a grin, then nodded to the DJ. As the beat started, I grabbed the mic with a hand and began to sing, my voice echoing across the venue as everyone turned to watch. Cake by the Ocean, DNCE, to nap, now, no see you walking round like it's a funeral. Not so serious, girl, why those feet cold? We just getting started, don't you tiptoe, or waste time with a masterpiece. Don't waste time with a masterpiece. You should be rolling with me. You're a real life fantasy. But you're moving so carefully. Let's start living dangerously. Talk to me, baby. I'm going blind from this sweet craving. Whoa, oh, let's lose our minds and go fucking crazy. I keep on hoping we'll eat cake by the ocean. Walk for me, baby. I'll be watching you be Naomi. Whoa, oh, let's lose our minds and go fucking crazy. I keep on hoping we'll eat cake by the ocean. Carly leaned toward the girls and asked, did he create that song just now? Clearly catching the reference to the cake and the beach just a few meters away. No idea, said Laura, equally surprised. Cher gave Carly a weird look and whispered to Regina, that's what she picked up on? Cake and ocean, one goddamn. See you licking frosting from your own hands. Want another taste? I'm begging. Yes, Mom, I'm tired of all this candy on the dry land. Oh, I finished the song under a wave of applause. I walked back to my friends and looked at Carly. Come on, Carly, okay, just because it's your birthday, she replied with a smile. Did you remember all the song I gave you? I asked. Yes, said Carly, nodding confidently. Then Carly stepped up to the small platform and took the microphone in hand. As the next track began to play, she started to sing, leave it all to me too. I know, you see, somehow the world will change for me and be so wonderful. Live life, breathe air. I know somehow we're gonna get there and feel so wonderful. By 10 p.m., the last guests had said their goodbyes and left, bringing the birthday party to a close. The seven of us, me, Cher, Regina, Carly, Laura, Freddie, and Sam, were sprawled across the living room couches, exhausted but happy. What a party. Thank you, everyone, I said, my voice a little hoarse but full of gratitude. Judith appeared in the doorway, looking around at us. Anyone want dinner or something to eat? She asked. A chorus of tired murmurs and groans rose up in response. I want, said Sam cheerfully. We all turned to glare at her. What? I'm hungry, Sam said simply, completely unfazed. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 121, Hernia Exam. A few days had passed since the party. Laura had already flown back to Canada. Now it was just me, sitting at the kitchen table with Dad at the Malibu beach house. We were both eating toast and scrambled eggs. Berta was moving around the kitchen. Dad looked over at me and asked, are you okay, son? Yay, just a little sad. Besides the obvious. Laura was a great friend, I replied honestly. Before we could talk any further, a girl rushed into the kitchen wearing nothing but an oversized shirt. She looked around, slightly flustered. Excuse me. Is one of you Alan? She asked. Alan looked at me, then at Berta, clearly caught off guard. Slowly, he raised his hand. I'm Alan, he said. Oh, Good, the woman said, visibly relieved. Charlie wants you to come upstairs. Why? Alan asked, narrowing his eyes. Well, it's kind of hard to explain, she said hesitantly. Try, Alan replied. Oh yeah, try, Berta chimed in with an amused grin. He's kind of stuck, the woman said. In what? Alan asked. In what? I repeated, already intrigued. Not in anything. Just stuck, she clarified awkwardly. Would you hurry, please, she urged. Where are you going? Alan asked, turning to Berta and me as we both started to follow. Oh, like I'm gonna miss this, Berta said, already on the move. Yeah, now I'm curious, I added, getting up from my seat. The three of us headed upstairs and entered Charlie's bedroom. What we saw stopped us cold. Charlie was on all fours on the bed, completely frozen in place. Charlie, are you okay? Alan said, blinking. Do I look okay? Charlie replied incredulously, still stuck in position. Yes, Dad. Unless Uncle Charlie suddenly changed preferences, he's obviously not okay, I said, trying to keep a straight face too. That is not funny, Jake, Charlie muttered. I beg to differ, Alan added with a smile. What happened? Alan continued. I pulled my back, Charlie grumbled. I didn't do anything. I was just lying there and he started screaming, the woman explained. I understand, Alan said with a nod. I mean, I wasn't just lying there, she added quickly. We got it, I said, cutting her off before she could go further. Damn, I wish I had a camera, Berta muttered. That's okay. It's all on video, the woman said casually, pointing to the camera. I took the camera before Berta could see it. Alan, you're a chiropractor. Do something, Charlie said through gritted teeth. Really? You want my help? Even after you referred to my profession as, what was it? Urban voodoo, Alan asked, raising an eyebrow. I'm sorry. Now help me, Charlie pleaded. Okay, We'll see what we can do, Alan said, then waved his hands dramatically while chanting, Oee at Himalaya, to yeah, okay, very funny, Charlie said, rolling his eyes. Okay, let's see what we've got here, Alan said, getting serious as he moved closer to help. Is this tender? He asked, pressing lightly on Charlie's back. A little, Charlie replied. On a scale of 1 to 10, I don't know. 3, okay, what about this? 4, and what about this? Alan asked, applying pressure again. Charlie groaned. Alan waited. I'm gonna need a number, Charlie. No, I changed my mind, Charlie snapped. Leave me alone. Oh, don't be a baby, stay away, I have to examine you. It's okay. I'm better. No, you're not, Alan said flatly. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. Yes, I need a private ambulance, I said into the receiver. No, it's not life-threatening. He has some back issues, but nothing serious, Jake, Alan said, sounding a bit indignant. What? I asked. Let's just get this over with. After a little while, the private ambulance arrived. A male nurse and a female nurse stepped into the room, carrying a stretcher and a medical kit. Charlie, who had been lying on the bed groaning in pain, suddenly sat up straight the moment he saw how attractive the nurse was. Hello, nurse, he said smoothly. Alan muttered under his breath, hallelujah. It's a miracle. I just shook my head. Cut to the doctor's office. The three of us, me, Alan, and Charlie, were now sitting in the examination room together. Uncle Charlie was once again lying on the table, groaning. Alan was mid-rant about something. Swallow the pharmaceutical company's propaganda. I'll swallow it. I'll sniff it. I'll insert it rectally. Anything to kill the pain. I'm dying here, Charlie cut in dramatically. Just then, the door opened. Mr. Harper, I'm Dr. Talmadge, a calm, professional voice said. Hello, doctor, Charlie greeted her, but the moment he laid eyes on her, he suddenly sat up straight, just like with the nurse, grinning like a teenager. The doctor was beautiful. You must be kidding me. Deja vu? How does his luck even work? I whispered to Dad, genuinely impressed. I wish I knew, Alan muttered. I stood up and stretched. Well, now that everything's under control, I'm heading out. Bye, Uncle Charlie. Thank you, Jake, Charlie said with a smile, though his attention was already drifting back to the stunning Dr. Talmadge. Later that day, I returned to Malibu after spending some time out with Carly, Freddie, and Sam. As I walked toward the kitchen, I heard my dad muttering to himself in the living room. There's just no justice in this world, He grumbled under his breath. What now? I asked. Your Uncle Charlie got quality time with the doctor, Dad said, using a clear euphemism. Good for him, I murmured, heading into the kitchen. I walked into the kitchen and spotted Uncle Charlie already sitting at the table with a beer. Hey again, Uncle Charlie, I said. Hey, kid, he replied. I squinted at him. How come you look like you're in more pain now? Charlie let out a sigh. To tell you the truth, I already knew the doctor. I got it, I said, before he could continue. How did you get it? I didn't tell you everything, he asked. You probably screwed with her. Now she screwed you back. And judging by the way you're sitting, it looks like she was trying to scramble some eggs, I replied with a smirk too. Charlie glared at me but said nothing. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 122, Japan. August flew by in the blink of an eye. First, I traveled with Carly, Sam, and Freddie. Then came another trip, this time with Regina and Cher. And finally, one with all of them together. Now, it was just me and Pepper, flying across the Pacific. Destination, Japan. The plane hummed softly as I looked out the window, watching the clouds stretch out endlessly beneath us. Pepper was seated beside me, reading through a sleek black binder filled with notes, schedules, and contact lists. I leaned my head against the seat and let my mind wander. Judith, Alan, and Charlie had all passed on the trip. Said they were tired. Tired of what? I have no idea, considering none of them actually work. Then again, maybe they just wanted a break from me. Which is insulting, as I'm a very delightful person too. Pepper finally looked up from her binder and started talking. We've acquired the scripts for Chicago and The Pianist. Also, the deal with Mel Gibson for The Passion of the Christ is officially closed, she continued. They'll each have a budget of around $30 to $40 million, with Chicago possibly getting a bit more. They can't be considered low budget anymore, and they'll take longer to produce. I believe all of them will be set for release next year. We also made a deal for Saw, she added. We agreed to let James Wan as director and Lee Whannell as screenwriter. With a budget of $1.5 million, I'm not too concerned. It'll be released in January next year, since we already have 2 horror films lined up for this year. The Conjuring will be released on Halloween, while Annabelle is set for December, I added. Pepper nodded in agreement. And what about Pirates of the Caribbean? I asked, glancing over at her. We're closing the deal with Disney, she said. The film itself is already locked in, since they seemed hesitant to spend more than $120 million on the production. Now we're finalizing the agreement to use the name, since it references one of their theme park rides. But we'll close it, don't worry. I can't wait to see their faces when they realize just how big Pirates of the Caribbean is going to be. Let's see who gets Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars first. 3 Pepper flipped another page and said, and my big fat Greek wedding is basically closed out, finished worldwide at $401 million. Couldn't we have stopped at $400 million? I asked with a smirk. Like Paranormal Activity, 1 million more or less doesn't make much difference. Pepper grabbed a newspaper from beside her, rolled it up like a baton, and gave me a few playful whacks on the arm. Don't be such a brat, she muttered. I sighed. Do I really have to go to the party? I mean, I like parties, but not ones where I barely know anyone. And let's be honest, you're going to be the center of attention, especially now that those 3 films turned into dark horses. Sophia wants to meet you in person, Pepper replied calmly. Oh yes, Sofia Coppola, our director, and the one who helped turn my draft into full screenplay. She keeps bugging me all the time, I added with a shrug. Pepper looked at me deadpan. She said you kept telling her to do whatever she wanted. Well, I trust her, I said unfazed. It was her story in the first place too, and the actors want to meet you too, Pepper added. I looked at Pepper, nodding slowly. She sighed and handed me a portfolio. Here, there's a photo and the name. You probably don't even know who the actors are anyway, I gasped. I know them. Like, I flip open the portfolio. Bill Murray. I stared at the photo for a second, then hesitated. Who is he? Pepper, without missing a beat, grabbed the newspaper again, rolled it up like a baton, and gave me another swift whack on the arm. He's the lead, she snapped. I turned the page, and one of my eyebrows lifted slightly. Scarlett Johansson, I said, blinking in surprise. She's the female lead. We had to be a little more careful since she's only 16. But the movie's PG, so everything's fine, Pepper explained. She's beautiful, I murmured, glancing sideways at Pepper. Pepper rolled her eyes. I'm not going to tell you what you can or can't do. Just be careful. I know you're not stupid or a scumbag, but if you ever do something foolish, call me, so we can figure out how to handle it. Thank you, Pepper. You're the big sister I always wished for, I said with a smirk. And you're the little brother I never asked for, she smirked back. I leaned my head back again and stared at the ceiling of the plane for a moment. The truth was, I hadn't really gotten involved in the actual production of the movies. I like to watch movies, not to produce them. That is all, Pepper. My thing is music, after all. I'm not a jack of all trades. With the release of the premium edition of Joy Time, combined sales from both versions have already surpassed 5 million, making it the best-selling album of the year so far, and by far. It's currently sitting at the top of the Billboard charts. I already talked with Pepper. We're going to keep releasing more songs and a second album at the end of the year. The goal is to build up enough hype so that Tomorrowland can happen in March 2002. We want to go for 2 days, with at least 150,000 people each day. But it could be even bigger depending on the Bus 3 support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, Tokyo. The descent into Tokyo was smooth, the city slowly unfolding beneath the clouds like a neon-lit mosaic. Pepper and I were seated side by side, accompanied by 3 bodyguards who had traveled with us from LA. We arrived at the hotel not long after. The lobby was sleek and modern, all marble floors and minimalist lighting. Staff greeted us with deep bows and practiced smiles. I really love to be rich, I muttered as I stepped inside, for our luggage and clothes had arrived ahead of us. Inside the room, everything was already in place. My wardrobe was fully stocked with outfits I had pre-approved, and the bathroom shelves were lined with all the grooming products I like to use. By the bed, my favorite snacks had been neatly arranged like a welcome gift. It was like walking into a custom-made luxury bubble. I walked into the bathroom and found the hot tub already filled and steaming, bubbles foaming gently on the surface. Without hesitation, I stripped down and slid in, letting out a satisfied sigh as the heat wrapped around me. After a good soak and some time to unwind, Pepper and I decided to do some sightseeing. Wherever we went, we drew stares, not because of who we were, but because of the sheer size of my personal security detail. With 3 towering bodyguards following us everywhere, it was hard to blend in. That evening, we attended the party. Even though the film was technically a low-budget project, Pepper had decided to host the event anyway. Her goal was to build ties with key Japanese figures in film distribution and production. Normally, people like them wouldn't show up to a party this small. But considering how fast JD was rising, with 3 films turning into dark horses and holding the contract of the hottest name in music, they came. After chatting for a while with Sofia Coppola, I managed to slip away and start a conversation with someone else. "Hey, nice to meet you, Jake Harper," I said, extending my hand. "Nice to meet you, Scarlett Johansson," she replied with a friendly smile. She tilted her head slightly, her expression curious. "So, you're the writer? The one who came up with the story?" I nodded. "Yes. Though I had a lot of help making it into something film-worthy," she smiled, then added, "You're younger than I expected." She leaned in slightly, still intrigued. "How is it to be the screenwriter?" This will sound very weird, but I'm not a real writer. I wrote a few things, and 2 of them got adapted, but it's not what I love to do. Scarlett blinked, surprised. "Really?" She laughed a little. "So it's like a hobby." "A bit less than that," I chuckled. "Wow, I wasn't expecting that," she said. "And you? What's it like being an actress?" I asked. "Tiring," she said. "But I love it very much. It's what I want to do for the rest of my life." Her voice carried an unmistakable passion. "Incredible. That's why I'm your fan," I said with a smile. I did like Scarlett's movies. I always thought she was a good actress. And, of course, there was the obvious, she was stunning. Oh, really? She said with a smile, looking a little suspicious. Which role did you like me in the most, huh? I said, caught off guard. Oh crap, I thought. I only remember Natasha Romanoff and the movies Match Point and The Island. None of which have even been released yet. I murmured, then looked her straight in the eyes and said seriously, this one, in Lost in Translation, one. She rolled her eyes and laughed. Oh. I remember, I added quickly, snapping my fingers. There's one with horses, The Horse Whisperer, she said, laughing. Do you even know what that movie is about? About horses, I said with the most conviction I could muster. Scarlett playfully punched my arm and grinned. Do you have any shame? I ignored her teasing and suddenly lit up. Wait, I remember another one, I said, holding up a finger. Home Alone, with Macaulay Culkin. She laughed again and opened her arms dramatically. I was in Home Alone 3, the one Macaulay Culkin wasn't even in. Oh man, that never happened with me, I said. One. Scarlett laughed genuinely this time. Come on, let's sit over there, I said, nodding toward an empty bench in an isolated corner of the hall. I've already destroyed your ego and embarrassed myself enough for one night, she grinned, and together we walked over and took a seat, the party buzzing far from us. Scarlett looked at me mischievously. Even though I now know you're not actually my fan, tell me, what do you really enjoy? Since screenwriting isn't high on your list, music and reading. But I think the first one's more interesting to talk about, I said genuinely. Music became my passion. You told me about being an actress for your life, maybe music would be that for mine. So you dream about becoming a famous singer? She asked, raising an eyebrow with a teasing smile. Yes, in the future, yes, I said. I'll be rooting for you, she replied warmly. Thank you, I said with a grateful smile. To be fair, I already sang a famous one, I added, then sang the first lines, feeling my way through the darkness guided by a beating heart. I can't tell where the journey will end, but I know where to start. You're the one who sang Wake Me Up by Marshmello, Scarlett asked, surprised. Cool, right, I said with a grin. Very. I love his songs, she said, then hummed a few lines from Symphony, her voice light and playful. I joined her, singing along to a few lines. For a moment, it was just the two of us laughing and harmonizing like kids sneaking away from the party. Then we looked at each other. And before she could talk, I leaned in and kissed her. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35+ advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 124, Karaoke. Then she kissed me back. I'm not some creepy Lacerlowitz. I can tell when someone's giving me the green light, without being delusional. For Scarlett and I found a more secluded spot to continue our interaction. The next day, we went out to explore Tokyo. We walked through the busy streets, pausing at little shops and food stalls, laughing at random things and pointing out quirky ads. Since neither of us is very famous, we didn't have to worry about paparazzi. As we exited one store, she suddenly stopped and looked over her shoulder. Wait, are those guys following us? I turned slightly and spotted two of my bodyguards keeping a discreet distance. Yes, I admitted casually. They're with me. Scarlett blinked. You have security? Seriously, I shrugged. Just a precaution. She shook her head with a playful smile and added, you are becoming like a puzzle. After a while, I suggested we go to a karaoke place. Scarlett agreed, and we headed to one of those private karaoke rooms that are pretty common in Tokyo. When we walked into the room, Scarlett looked around and then glanced at me, a little suspicious. To be honest, I was a bit surprised too. It gave a different vibe, to say the least. I looked at her and said honestly, my idea was to sing, and maybe a few kisses. I took a breath and added, seriously this time, looking her in the eyes, but if you're even a little bit uncomfortable, we can go somewhere else or end our little dating here. I kept my gaze steady. I know, and you might know too, how shit Hollywood can be. I will never be that kind of person. She laughed, diffusing the awkward tension a bit. Then, still smiling, she reached for the door and gently closed it. The bodyguard stayed outside. Are you sure? I asked. I know you don't have bad intentions, she said smirking. Hey, somehow I feel insulted, I said, feigning indignance. But how could you possibly know? We barely know each other for a day, woman intuition, Scarlett said. Now you are BS me, I replied. But you should always be cautious, I added. Because I am, I thought. There's a little camera and a recorder here. Only Pepper has access, I talked to her before. Scarlett seems like a nice person, but you never know where a bad idea might come from. I saw some wrongful accusation in this and in my past life. Okay, you bad wolf. I'll sit 2 spaces away from you, she said, laughing. What are we gonna sing? I asked, then smiled. Ladies first, Scarlett grabbed the remote and the microphone. She scrolled through the TV menu, then looked at me with a grin. I will sing this, she said, showing Burn by Marshmello featuring Ellie Goulding. She started singing, "'Cause we got the fire, and we're burning one hell of a something." She is surprisingly good. I had heard her humming and singing to herself yesterday, but seeing her perform like this, she's good too. When she finished, I clapped. Now it's your turn, Scarlett said, handing me the microphone. Which Marshmello song do you want me to sing? I asked. Friend Zone, she said, smiling. I gasped but queued up the song. On the screen, the video started playing, with Regina featured in the opening shot, and the lyrics appeared in big subtitles. I hit play and started singing, turning towards Scarlett as I did. I didn't need the subtitles' help. When I finished, Scarlett clapped and said, "You really are a good singer." Then she added with a laugh, "And a Marshmello fan. You just danced exactly like him." I turned back to the monitor, which was already blank, and then looked at her. Totally. I sang with him. He's a nice guy. Scarlett didn't seem suspicious at all and asked, "By any chance, did you actually find out his real identity?" "Unfortunately not," I said, unfazed. He used a voice modifier to talk. And even if I knew, I signed way too many NDA clauses. I lied without shame. Too bad, she said. I sat down next to Scarlett and kissed her. We stayed like that for a while. After a moment, I said, "After singing that song, obviously I had to kiss you." She smiled and said, "The term got really popular, didn't it? Friend zone. Isn't it amazing? How a singer could create a term like that?" "Yay," I agreed. "I don't know if I'm proud of that idea." Scarlett sang outside this time, then gave me the mic again. "How about I sing one of my originals?" I asked. "Do it," she said, excited. I got up and walked out for a second, returning with a backpack I had left with one of the bodyguards. I pulled out a DVD, placed it in the karaoke machine, and said, "I already recorded the instrumental part." I pressed play, and the music started. Then I began to sing, "What do you mean, Justin Bieber, 3 What do you mean? Oh, when you nod your head yes, but you wanna say no what do you mean? Hey, yeah when you don't want me to move, but you tell me to go what do you mean? Oh, what do you mean? Said you're running out of time, what do you mean? Oh, what do you mean? Better make up your mind, what do you mean?" Scarlett clapped when I finished singing. Bye guy, don't worry, I'll let you keep the baby song one," she said smiling. "You could put me in the video when you release that song." Remembering how the video for What Do You Mean looked, I turned to her and said, "You bet." We sang a few more songs and then went back to making out. We both knew this was just a summer fling, with no feelings attached. She is living who knows where because of her movie's work. So we simply enjoyed the moment. Scarlett will be back in the future. For now, it was just 2 teens having fun on vacation, in another country. Note 2, Diddy went unnoticed. I even searched on the internet. The song changed to "I'll Be Watching You Be Naomi." I will update the Chapter 3 support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 125. 10th grade. After a few days in Japan, I returned to Malibu. The jet lag was hitting, but home was home. When I walked into the house, I found Alan and Charlie sitting at the kitchen table, both with mugs in hand. "Hey," I said, tossing my backpack near the chair. "Look who's back," Charlie said, raising his mug. Alan smiled and added, "The trip must have been good." "You're all smiley." Charlie narrowed his eyes, staring at me for a second, then smirked. "He hooked up," he declared. I opened a wide smile and said, "You bet I did." She was amazing. The next day, school started. Carly, Freddie, Sam, Regina, Cher, and I met at the cafeteria early in the morning. We had agreed to have breakfast together before classes began. The place was still relatively quiet, the usual school buzz not yet in full swing. We grabbed a big table. "We are now sophomores," said Carly, excited. But 4 people at the table, Cher, Sam, Regina, and I, had their heads down on the table, not sharing the same enthusiasm. Cher, Regina, and I said in unison, "We miss Laura," too. Laura was a good friend. Sam, still groggy, mumbled, "I'm just sleepy," but then quickly added, noticing the looks from the rest of us, "And I miss Laura too." The 4 of us returned to resting our heads on the table. A girl walked past, and I instinctively turned to look, my gaze following her walking in front of us. "Over here, Pippa," someone called out to her too suddenly. I felt a smack to the back of my head. "You are," started Cher. "Unbelievable," Regina finished in a mock voice. "I was just looking," I defended. "There are these new girls from other schools." "Yeah right," everyone said at once, followed by laughter. Cher added, "There was some kind of murder involving a couple at a school nearby. And some students were relocated here." Regina nodded. "Yes. I heard we are getting like 4 or 5 extra students in each class." "Isn't that a little dumb to do that?" said Freddie. "Our government was never known for brilliant ideas," I replied when the bell rang. "Let's go to class," said Carly. We all stood up, grabbing our things and waving goodbye to Cher and Regina, who still had different classrooms from ours. When we entered the classroom, I immediately noticed 4 new faces, 3 girls and 1 boy. "Let's say hello to them," I told Freddie. "Nah, I'm good," he replied, still half asleep. So I went on my own. "Hello, Jake Harper," I said, offering a smile. The 4 of them responded in turn, Pippa Fitzimobi, Kara Ward, Lauren Gibson, and Ravi Singh. "7 nice," I said, nodding. "If you need anything," I continued, then pointed toward a group, "just ask that girl. Her name is Carly. She's a good person and can help you out." A couple of girls nearby chuckled quietly at my shameless redirection. I smiled and then walked back to rejoin the group. Carly narrowed her eyes and asked, "Why did you point at me?" I said if they need any help, to contact you, I replied. "Why didn't you say to contact you?" I gave her a weird look. "No. That would be too troublesome." Carly started to slap me, playfully, but repeatedly, making several people around us laugh, and approached the group, that she was already friends of, and smiled. "So, you met our prince," she said, noticing Jake had already introduced himself to the 4 newcomers. "Prince?" Kara raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, but don't call him that. He doesn't like it much," and replied. "Understandable. It's kinda cringe," said Pippa, wincing slightly. "So, who's the handsome guy?" Lauren asked, curious. "Jake. He's the most popular guy in our school. Nice and funny. I talked to him a bit, and he's really easygoing," Anne said. "Let's see. Oh, and he's insanely smart. He's 2 years younger than us but still got first place last year." "He doesn't look like the nerdy type," Kara commented. "Not even close. He sleeps in class. Sometimes he skips entirely," Anne added. Pippa made a disapproving face. "Oh, and he's filthy rich. I went to his birthday party and the end of the year one too. Both were insane. But the one at Santa Monica looked like something out of a movie." "He has 2 houses?" Pippa asked. "His parents are divorced, I think, and his parties are incredible. You do not want to be on his bad side, or you'll miss the most wanted party in the 10th grade. Even some upperclassmen try to get in, and speaking of parties, Carly, Cher, and Regina throw some too," Anne added. "But Jake's is the best one. Carly's are a little childish, and Cher and Regina's are a bit too focused on themselves. So, rich, intelligent, and handsome." Lauren smirked. "He must have some flaws," Ravi muttered. "Well, he's kind of a playboy. He fooled around a lot last year," Anne admitted. "But this year he was kinda dating this gorgeous actress. She transferred to our school at the start of the year, but left in August. I heard she got a role in some TV show." "Wow," Ravi said under his breath. "A total bastard?" Lauren asked. "Not exactly. More like, the type who'll kiss you, but you know not to expect much else. He doesn't lie to girls or date more than one at a time. So if you go out with him, you already know it's just casual. So a gentleman bastard," Pippa said, giggling. "You could say that," Anne laughed with him. "But seriously, don't talk bad about him," she warned, especially looking at Ravi. "He's friends with a football team and a bunch of other guys. I heard some people got beat up for bad-mouthing him. One Kara glanced in Jake's direction and murmured, "I wouldn't mind a kiss or two." The girls burst into giggles. Ravi just scoffed and shook his head. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 126, New Classmates. Just as the murmurs and side conversations began to fade, the classroom door swung open and Ms. Ackerman stepped in, carrying a clipboard and her usual warm smile. "Good morning, everyone," she said as she walked to the front. "I hope you all had a restful summer. Now, let's get started. As you can see, we have a few new students joining us this semester." The class straightened up slightly. She glanced at her clipboard. "Pippa Fitzimobi, Kara Ward, Lauren Gibson, and Ravi Singh, you'll be assigned new seats. We've made a few changes to the arrangement to accommodate everyone." There were a few groans and sighs as students realized their usual spots might be disrupted. Ms. Ackerman began calling names from her clipboard. "Harper and Puckett, you'll be in the last row. Shea and Benson, up front in the first row. Fitzimobi, you'll take the seat next to Harper. Ward, next to Shea. Gibson, third row by the window. Singh, near the window seat." Sam and I bumped fists. "We got last row," Sam said, grinning. Then she looked at Pippa. "What did you do wrong, pretty girl, to get stuck in the last row? I thought you'd be more like the nerdy type," she added, glancing toward Freddie and Carly. Pippa looked surprised. "I did nothing wrong," she whispered, looking at Sam. "Oh, don't be shy," I said, placing a hand on Sam's shoulder and giving Pippa a grin. "Come to the dark side, too." Sam reached into her backpack and added with a smirk, "We have cookies." One she passed one to me and then one to Pippa. Pippa hesitated at first, but I nudged her with a smile. "Eat it, it's delicious." And believe me, Sam doesn't usually share her snacks. Pippa ended up taking a bite, seeing how casually Sam and I ate ours without a hint of concern. "Ms. Fitzimobi," said the teacher with a neutral tone, "we don't eat in class. Please don't join the two troublemakers." Pippa coughed and said a little embarrassed, "I'm sorry." I finished chewing and swallowed. "My God, Sam, you made so much trouble that now you're counting as two." "One, she was talking about you too, you idiot," said Sam, making everyone laugh again. Few days after, I was having afternoon coffee with Uncle Charlie in the kitchen. The smell of fresh coffee and toasted bread filled the air. Alan walked into the kitchen, adjusting the collar of his shirt. "Hey, how do I look?" "Dad, just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's stylish," I said. "One, forget it, Jake. That preppy style of his isn't going anywhere," said Charlie. Alan glared at the two of us. "I'm really nervous here," he said. "I have a date tonight." "You look fine, Dad." "That's your best version," I said reassuringly. Which isn't saying much, considering the other versions, Charlie murmured. One. Alan glared again at Charlie, not amused. "You're fine," Charlie said, lifting his coffee mug. "Look, just don't turn this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. You met a woman, you asked her out." "Technically, she asked me out," Alan interjected. "See, I was in the market," Alan continued. "And she needed advice on picking out corn. There were no employees around. There never are. Even if they are, they're not knowledgeable about produce." "Thank God you were there," Charlie said dryly. "Tell me about it," Alan nodded. "I explained that you have to husk a few ears to check the firmness of the kernels. Next thing you know, she asked me out." Charlie and I exchanged a look. "Dad, there are probably 4 kinds of women that would ask you out after that interaction," I said, raising my fingers to count. "She has the urge, she's a gold digger, she wants a green card, or she's crazy." "One, listen to your son, Alan," Charlie added. "Just hope it's the first one. Because if it's one of the other 3, we'll have to kick your ass, and yours too. And Dad, boost your self-esteem," I added. "You're rich now. You have a nice house, nice cars, and your son is almost pooping money. Just don't screw it up with some random woman you met at the supermarket. If you want to do something stupid, like marriage, with a supermarket woman, at least find one with the last name Walton, owner of Walmart." Alan took a deep breath. "Okay, you're right," he said, then murmured, "I'm a good catch now, a great catch," and he seemed to calm down a bit. "I can do it," he said quietly, then turned to look at me and Charlie. "Thank you," and with that, He walked out, one eye turned slowly. Does it work? I asked, thoughtfully. Charlie rubbed his chin. I don't know. But miracles can happen. Alan had 2 intense days of activity with a woman. One now, the 3 of us, Alan, Charlie, and I, were sitting at the kitchen table again. Alan looked simultaneously smug, exhausted, and conflicted, sipping from a tall glass of orange juice as if it were a recovery potion. He murmured, I can't believe she was married. Charlie glared at Alan, then gave him a few pats on the back. At least it was the first option. Well, Dad, it seems we don't need to kick your ass, I said. Charlie murmured, we didn't even need to. She did that a lot. Alan and I looked at Charlie. Thanks God I had that soundproofing installed in my room, I said. I expected it to be useful for some of Uncle Charlie's louder guests. Who would have thought I'd use it because of Dad? Now both of them turned to glare at me. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh jr. Up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 127, Investments and Money. It was September 16th, just 5 days after the attack that had shaken the entire world. The atmosphere everywhere was still heavy. And yet, life kept moving. We were having a secret meeting at Pepper's house, me, Pepper, Anthony, and Harvey Spencer. I looked at Anthony and said, Anthony, you can start with our financial breakdown of JD Company. He nodded and started to speak. We have a total of $720 million in own cash and investments, composed of $300 million in cash and $420 million in stocks too. These $720 million already account for the profits from the movies Paranormal Activity, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and part of Brokeback Mountain. The films contributed $320 million, while the other $400 million came from the initial cash and the insane profitability generated by it and the movies once the money started coming in. Yeah, it is like printing money. We profited a lot from the movies, and we reinvested that profit into stocks, generating even more money. Anthony continued, this doesn't include the money from our short position in Enron. We currently hold 20 million Enron shares short, with an average price of $70, 5% of Enron's total shares. At current prices, 32.76, closing the position would cost us around $660 million, meaning we're sitting on a profit of $740 million before taxes. We used leverage at the start, so that explains the amazing profit. Why do we even make movies? Pepper murmured, having a little existential crisis. Keep increasing the short position, Anthony. We're not done yet, I said. Anthony added, that's not even counting what's still coming from Brokeback Mountain, plus Lost in Translation just launched, and we still have Annabelle and The Conjuring lined up. And $1.46 billion is just own cash, investments and profit, short position. If you count all the assets, there are also properties, film materials, intangible assets, and more. I grinned. The United States Mint would be jealous of us, Pepper completed. We also have our music division through the subsidiary, Marshmello being our biggest asset there. I leaned forward. Let's get to what matters. Anthony, how much do we have available to invest? He replied, for now, without closing the short position or selling our stocks, we have $1.7 billion in cash available. But we need around $660 million to close the short position, $300 own cash plus $1,400 short position, $1,700 total cash. I nodded. The stock market has been closed for a week. Even with the Fed's cash injection, chances are we'll see a bloodbath in the coming days. We'll focus on 3 key investments. First and most important, Amazon. Their market cap is already at $3.1 billion, and it'll probably slide further. Anthony, prepare to buy at the end of the month. Our target is 30% of the company, with an average market cap of $2.5 billion, meaning a total investment of $750 million. I continued. Second on the list is the Chinese company NetEase. It's likely to be delisted from Nasdaq due to allegations that some of its executives were involved in fraudulent earnings disclosures. Right now, they're worth practically nothing. I'd consider a takeover bid if they weren't a Chinese company. Try to acquire 40%, somewhere between 30 to 40 million should be enough. And finally, I want a takeover bid for Hansen's Natural. They're not worth much, their market cap is 40 million right now. Try to make a deal before we have to go hostile, I rationalized. Hansen's Natural is a manufacturer of sodas and juices, but what really interests me is their energy drink division. It's the perfect match with Marshmallow. We could launch an energy drink brand at Tomorrowland and break into that market. One Hansen was the former name of Monster Beverage Corporation. They haven't even launched Monster yet. I can use that. If they don't sell to us, better register the name now. 3. I could finally take the first step toward one of my biggest goals, owning 30% of Amazon. The year 2002 is going to be brutal for the stock market, S&P 500 tumbling, countless companies losing their value. That's when Apple's market cap will sit at just $4.5 billion, and Nvidia at $1.4 billion. Good time to strike. I'll take a solid bite out of both. Anthony leaned forward. I have a suggestion. We don't want everyone knowing that JD Company owns these stakes. And from what you said, Jake, it sounds like Amazon is going to be a long-term position. We can structure a fund, 100% owned by JD Company, maybe even place it in a tax haven. Pepper looked up, so we would only need to disclose that. For example, the Jacob Fund acquired 30% of the shares, without linking it to JD by name. Harvey replied, it can be done legally. Let's do it, I said. But really, we're using my name again? I asked, looking at Pepper. Yes, let's keep the standard, she replied, unfazed. I thought. Now we have JD Company, Harper Fund, and Jacob Fund. There's still David. I have the D in my middle name. Maybe that is why I'm the protagonist. 3. We kept talking for a little while longer, reviewing timelines, documents, and potential partners. Eventually, Anthony and Harvey stood up, grabbing their folders. I'll get the paperwork in motion, Anthony said. Keep me in the loop, Harvey added. After a few quick goodbyes, they left, and only Pepper and I remained in the room. I was sitting, sending a message on my phone when Pepper stood up and gently wrapped her arms around my head. I looked up at her, a little confused. Are you okay? She asked, a little concerned. Yes. Nothing to think about it, I said simply. I decided to talk to Pepper about the terrorist attack. I had never seen her so pale. After thinking for a long while, she came to the same conclusion I did. It's way out of our league. And what I said to Pepper was totally correct. I don't feel any guilt. The blame is on the terrorists. 1. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 128, October. It was the beginning of October, and little by little, the world began to find its rhythm again. That morning, the 5 of us were gathered in the school cafeteria: Cher, Regina, Carly, Freddie, and me. Sam had gone to get food. Pippa walked past the cafeteria entrance and spotted us. She gave me a quick hi, Jake, followed by a more general, hey, everyone, directed at the rest of the table. Then, without stopping, she continued on her way to the classroom. After seeing Pippa greet me, Carly leaned in. You and Pippa, we're friends. I didn't even flirt with her, I said. Carly looked at me, suspicious. Freddie was busy texting a message, while Cher and Regina were deep in a different conversation. Sam appeared with a piece of bread in her hand. What's the conversation? She asked. That I'm just friends with Pippa, I replied. Sam looked surprised. That is, actually true. You're all friendly talk, but not a single flirt. Why wouldn't you do that? You don't want to kiss her? She is kinda cute. No, I wouldn't mind kissing her. But why are you saying it like I'm some Casanova? I said, sounding like I was being wronged. Regina turned her attention to us. Maybe because he was spending his time with Jessica or Jennifer, and Mandy, added Cher. How do you know about Mandy? That was yesterday, I asked, surprised. We girls talk, said Cher, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Only been a month and you already kissed 3 girls, asked Sam deadpan. 2 not at the same time, I replied with a poker face, and they all know about it. Jennifer even said she wanted to do something different from Jessica. About the date, I added. And Mandy kissed me from the beginning, saying she was dying to know if it was true, I said weirdly. Cher whispered, I might have gossiped that you kiss very well. I laughed. Now makes sense. I'm liking you even more, Cher. Carly and Sam still looked me deadpan. The bell rang, echoing through the halls, and everyone stood up from the table, heading off toward class. When we entered the classroom, Ms. Ackerman was already inside, organizing some papers. As we all settled into our seats, she began calling our names one by one, returning the graded tests from earlier in the week. The first one from our group to be called was Sam. She returned to her seat a moment later and said, "All C's." One. I nodded, not thinking much of it. Then Pippa was called. She quietly returned to her seat without saying anything. I didn't pay it much attention, but Sam stood up and went over to peek at Pippa's paper. 3 as in a B, Sam announced. "Yep, we have another Freddie and Carly here." She glanced again. "And your name is really Pippa?" Pippa and I both looked at her strangely. "What? I thought it was another nickname besides Pip," Sam said defensively. "Well, it could be a nickname for Philippa, but no, my name is just Pippa," she smiled. That reminded me of the day I was talking to Dad and Uncle Charlie about the new girls in my class. Uncle Charlie, of course, had taken the opportunity to explain the slang meaning of Pippa in other languages, Swedish and Italian. Later that day, out of curiosity, I looked it up myself. And yep, he was right. In Swedish, it could mean sex, and in Italian, hand job. And to my surprise, without one of the P's, Pippa could mean kite or wine barrel in Portuguese. Should I study more Portuguese? I'm fluent in Spanish and intermediate in both Portuguese and French, too. Then the professor called my name. I stood up, walked to the front, took the tests from her hands, and returned to my seat. Before I sat down, Sam leaned over to glance at my papers. "All A+. No surprises, but still surprises me," said Pippa. "You basically sleep, text on your phone, or read during class." "That is a lie," I replied. Pippa glared at me. "I also eat, and I pass notes to you and Sam. Sometimes I even write a little," I added with a smirk. Pippa shook her head. "And amazes me that you can say it with a straight face." "I don't see any problem," I said, then turned my head to Sam. "Me neither," Sam agreed. Pippa just scoffed. Then my phone buzzed again. The first message had come earlier from Pepper. 2 more artists signed with us, Ashanta and Jason Mraz. I had already replied, "Amazing job too." It felt like playing Pokemon in real life. "I'm gonna catch them all." Pepper would hit me if I ever said that to her. 3. Now a new one from Anthony popped up. "All done 30%, $690 million, average cap $2.3 billion. We'll have to inform the market." I replied, "Amazing job." Anthony must have been buying for days. Now, a Schedule 13D needs to be filed with the SEC, because of 30%. It was needed since we got 5%. The next class had started, and I ended up taking a nap. I was woken up during the break by Cher and Regina. I blinked a few times and looked up at them. "What are you two doing here?" "We have a problem," Cher said seriously. Regina nodded. Cher continued, "My mother decided to throw a party on Halloween, and my house will be filled with preparations for my birthday," Regina added. "So we can't make a party there?" I looked weirdly at Regina. "Your birthdays is November 12th, right? Glad you remember." "And yes, but it's too close, too little time between one party and another," Regina replied. I shook my head but said, "So, Malibu house or Santa Monica?" The two of them looked at each other. "Santa Monica," Cher answered. "We can invite more people, and it's easier for everyone to get there." "Done," I said simply. Then I turned to Regina. "By the way, what do you prefer as a birthday present, Porsche 911 or Lexus SC 430? 7. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh jr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129, Cars. By the way, what do you prefer as a birthday present, Porsche 911 or Lexus SC 430? She had that thoughtful look she wore when picking outfits, or plotting. "That is a difficult choice," she finally said. "Love Porsche, but Lexus is also good and more useful for day-to-day. Why don't you choose the Lexus and ask your dad for the Porsche?" Cher suggested. "Brilliant idea, Cher," Regina said, turning to me. Then she smiled. "So, Alexis, If possible, a light pink one. She leaned closer and whispered in my ear, "Can you make her sign it?" I understood instantly, she meant Brittany. She wanted the car autographed. I nodded. "Can be done, love you, Jake," Regina exclaimed and gave me a big hug. Cher raised an eyebrow. "I want one too, yours is on December 10th, right?" I asked one. Cher nodded. "Done. Might as well buy them all now," I said with a grin. Cher hugged the other side of me. Then Sam chimed in. "How about me? Not a chance. You having a car, Sam, is a burden to society. You might end up running someone over, and not by accident. I don't want to be the one who made that possible. Choose another present." One. Sam thought for a moment. "A year of all-you-can-eat chicken and bacon?" "One done," I said. "And snacks?" "Like, a lifetime supply." "Also done," I replied. Sam grinned and hugged me from behind. Now I had Regina on one side, Cher on the other, and Sam wrapped around the back one. Carly and Freddie walked over from the front row. Carly looked at the scene and laughed. "What is this? Jake's hugging day?" "Yep, come in here," I said, motioning for her to join the group hug. "One new," Carly replied playfully, backing up a little. "I'm buying a car for them," I said, looking at her and Freddie. "What kind of car would you two want?" They both stared at me, surprised. "You buying Sam a car?" Carly asked. "No, better. He will buy me food," Sam replied proudly. "Thank God," Carly said with mock relief. "I don't want to go see Sam in juvie again," Carly chuckled, then added, "But a car, come on, Carly," I said, half smiling. "I will buy cars for these two." "How about a Mini Cooper?" Carly offered with a hopeful grin. "That's okay. But I'm buying Lexus SC430S for these two." "Mini is much simpler," I pointed out. "I'm okay with a Mini. I don't need a fancy car," Carly said with a shrug. I nodded and looked at Freddie, who seemed thoughtful. "I don't know if my mom will let me drive," he said uncertainly to Sam. Cut in immediately. "Why don't you grow some, what's it called, balls?" Freddie frowned. "Shut up, Sam." The two of them started bickering while the rest of us laughed. Freddie finally shrugged. "Can I think about it? My birthday's only in February anyway." I just nodded to him. The classroom door opened and the teacher walked in. Cher and Regina each gave me a kiss on the cheek and left without a hint of embarrassment. Still clinging to me from behind, Sam didn't move. The teacher gave her a long look inside. "Ms. Puckett." Sam let go reluctantly and went to her seat. A moment later, a folded piece of paper landed on my desk. I unfolded it. "Are you buying 4 cars?" I looked over at Pippa, who was staring back at me, wide-eyed. I tore a piece of paper from my notebook and scribbled back, "Believe me, the most expensive one is Sam's. I don't know how, but that girl eats a lot." Pippa read the note, raised an eyebrow, and gave me a weird look. I just nodded like it was the most natural thing in the world. A few moments later, another note reached my desk. "Either way, that is a lot of money." I wrote back quickly, "I'm the prodigal son. Lie. But no need to say the truth. If I bought everything today, tomorrow I'd already have more money than I had before buying the gifts. I'm basically printing money." Lost in Translation, surprisingly, had benefited from the aftermath of the attack. Since many studios decided to postpone their film releases, some even pulling theirs entirely due to the Twin Towers appearing in many scenes, our film, set in Japan, felt distant enough to not remind viewers of the tragedy. In fact, part of the audience simply wanted a temporary escape. And unlike what happened during COVID, nothing had truly shut down. Cinemas were still open. People still sought entertainment, even if the numbers had dropped and watching at home had become more popular. Then another note came. The envelope was marked, "To Sam, but you can read." I opened it before passing it along. Inside, it read, "Did you go to juvie prison?" I nudged Sam and handed her the note. She read it, then leaned forward, looking straight at Pippa, and raised a single finger in response, one time. Pippa couldn't help herself and whispered, "What did you do?" But before Sam could answer, the teacher said, "Ms. Fitzamobi, could you answer this question?" Pippa blinked. I leaned in and whispered, Four, Pippa repeated aloud. The teacher nodded. "It is correct." 4 times, Pippa looked at me, surprised, but I was already texting on my phone. A message from Brittany popped up, "Are you really releasing 5 songs today?" Me, "Yes, for my new album." Brittany, "But you released one already 2 months ago." Shouldn't you be doing a tour? Me, I had another idea. Brittany, what kind of idea? Me, not just a show. I'm planning a full 2-day festival. We'll be named Tomorrowland, 150,000 people each day, full production, global coverage. We'll release everything now to build hype, and that festival will be the ultimate explosion. Brittany, lol, you kidding? Then another message followed quickly. Brittany, let me in. Let me in. 3 Me, you can be part of it, but you need to change the beat of your songs. It's an EDM, electronic dance music, festival. You can sing my songs or remix yours to fit 3 Brittany, why not both? 2. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 130, Yes, Monseigneur. Brittany and I kept exchanging messages. In just a few months since we met, we'd become good friends. She's funny and genuinely nice, a far cry from the chaotic image I had of her in my past life. Maybe it's because she hasn't yet run into the tabloid storms. I'm still not sure how true those stories about heavy drug use were, but if she ever starts heading down that path, I'll do my best to stop it once she's just a little needy, that's all. After class ended, I announced to the whole group that there would be a Halloween party at my house in Santa Monica. Then Kara came over to talk with Pippa. But before that, she turned to me with a smile. Hey Jake, we sure will go to your party, she exclaimed, placing an arm around Pippa. Pippa agreed with a small nod. I smiled back and replied, great, you are all welcome. Kara turned to Pippa, visibly excited. I can't wait to get home and listen to Marshmello's new songs. According to what my sister texted me, it's 5 tracks. Their names are, Something Just Like This, Chainsmokers, Don't Let Me Down, Chainsmokers, A Sky Full of Stars, Coldplay, I'm Good, David Guetta, and Time of Our Lives, Pitbull. One I smirked and said, the first one is by far the best. One you already heard it? Kara asked, a little astonished, considering the songs had only dropped 2 classes ago. Pippa turned to me and glared. Jake does everything during class, except pay attention to it, I gasped. How could you say that, Pip? After school, I headed back to the Malibu house. As I stepped through the front door, I heard Charlie call out from the living room, hey, Jake. Do you remember Lisa? I turned and saw a beautiful blonde girl standing beside him. Yes, last Thanksgiving. Lisa Geller. Or whatever surname you have now, I said, trailing off as I remembered she was supposed to be getting married. Good to see you again, Jake, Lisa replied with a smile. And her surname will be back to Geller, Uncle Charlie added with a smirk. I raised an eyebrow and gave a charming grin. Sue, what happened? Lisa glared at Charlie. What are you teaching this boy? Apparently, I asked the same question and in the exact same tone as my uncle. Nothing. He didn't learn that from me, Charlie said, hands up in mock innocence. Still, Lisa answered, I thought he was the sweetest guy in the world, but after we got married, he changed. He started drinking a lot and lying around the house all day. And then I caught him in the shower with some bimbo, some guys, huh? I muttered, sneaking a look at Uncle Charlie. Yet, if I wanted that kind of life, I could have stayed with your uncle, Lisa finished. I murmured, and yet you're here, then added, with my uncle, it would be much better. He's still a funny guy. And you wouldn't catch him in the shower with some bimbo. Lisa looked at me suspiciously, not believing the last part. I explained, we have security now, so I'd warn him before you could catch him in the act. One Lisa glared at me, while Charlie gave a neutral, thank you, not quite sure what to think about the last part. Then we heard the sound of a baby crying. I looked around and spotted a baby in a carrier seat by the couch. This is, I asked, raising an eyebrow. That's my angel, Lisa replied sweetly. I leaned slightly toward Charlie and murmured, that's not yours, right? No, both Lisa and Charlie answered at the same time. Then Charlie turned to her. No, Lisa repeated, louder. Hey, I'm not judging, I added quickly, raising my hands. And from what you told me, your ex-husband can't either. We chatted a bit more, then Lisa and Uncle Charlie headed out to her place. I made my way to the other room and flopped down on the couch to watch some TV. On the screen, the presenter was speaking energetically. Marshmello released another 5 songs, and they are already flooding our radio stations. Can he even become more popular? He asked rhetorically. Then he turned to the commentator. Yes, John. He's not giving anyone else a chance anymore. He keeps releasing song after song after song. How can other artists even compete with that? He continued, and it feels like deja vu. Reminds me of the first time he dropped 5 songs all at once at the beginning. Last week, when I went out to a club, I basically heard only 2 songs that weren't his. One More Time by Daft Punk and Played Alive, the Bongo Song, by Safri Duo. He's basically monopolizing the genre. If in the last decade electronic music broke into the mainstream with artists like The Prodigy, Daft Punk, Fatboy Slim, and Chemical Brothers, today, one name alone seems to represent the entire revolution. The presenter jumped back in. Now the term electronic dance music, EDM, has become widely popular. It's even printed on Marshmello's album cover. Yes, the commentator added, it refers to a type of electronic music made specifically for dancing, often with a pop edge. Marshmello didn't invent the term, it existed before him, but it's undeniable. If someone wants to explain what EDM is nowadays, there's no way to do it without mentioning his name. 3. I turned off the TV and decided to head to the house in Santa Monica. Uncle Charlie had left with Lisa, and my dad wasn't expected back until late anyway. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh-junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 131, Page Trouble. I saw the incoming call. It was Missy. I picked up. Hey Jake. Hello Missy, how you doing? She asked. Great, but not better than you. From what I can hear on your side, I could hear music in the background. It sounded like she was at a party. Yeah, but I need your help. I don't know anyone else who can help. Okay. I'm listening. Paige is here. She's drunk, she's high, and from what Sheldon told me, she said her life is terrible. I'm trying to find her, but I don't know what to do after. I paused for a moment, thinking about it, then replied, I can help. Where are you? Near Caltech. I'll be there in about 40 minutes. I'm in Santa Monica. I told Mom I was helping a friend and would head to Malibu afterward. I got into my 4-seater car with 2 bodyguards. Another 2 were driving the Rolls-Royce behind us. Plus, we had a van with 4 more. Since I got richer, I increased the number of bodyguards. For the company, I kept 8. Pepper had 4 24-hours-a-day wonder over there, I said when I spotted Missy and Sheldon. The driver parked nearby, and I stepped out. Hello guys, Jake, Missy said with a smile. What is he doing here? Sheldon muttered to Missy. Good to see you too, C3PO, I said casually when I called him. Missy replied, then came over and hugged me. Thanks for coming. So, where's Paige? I asked. We found her, then lost her again, Missy said, looking frustrated. What was she wearing? I asked Sheldon, knowing his eidetic memory would kick in. Burgundy top, had a plaid jacket tied around her waist, some sort of necklace. Okay, that's enough. I grabbed my walkie-talkie and repeated Sheldon's description to the team. Start searching for her. Missy gave me a questioning look. I came with bodyguards, they'll find her. So, what are you doing here, Missy? I asked while we waited. A friend of mine has a sister studying near here. She invited us to the party, Missy explained. And your parents let you come? I raised an eyebrow. No. I said I was sleeping over at Heather's place. Classic, I said with a smirk. When a few minutes later, my walkie-talkie buzzed. Looks like they found her, I said. She's in front of her house nearby. When I arrived, I saw a guy talking to Paige. Hey, do you know how old she is? I asked the guy. She said she was 18, he replied. Try lower, 16, lower, I gotta go, the guy said and quickly vanished. For why did you do that? Paige asked. Hello to you too, Paige, I said. You messed with me on my 13th birthday. Now we're quits. I shrugged. One truth is, I just saved that guy from a big problem. I looked at Paige. Your life might be hell, but that's no reason to bring others with you. Paige huffed but said, nice to see you, Jake. I gave her a quick hug. So, did they call you to fix me? She asked sarcastically. Fix you? No, I came to the party, I answered, putting a hand on her shoulder. 16s arrived, 4 guys, and 2 girls. Looked like football players and cheerleaders. One of my security guys hired them so we could party without drawing attention. If I walked in with bodyguards, it'd be too much. These 6 are our ticket to every party, I told Missy, then grinned. Come on, it's 9:30 p.m., too early to shut down the night. Let's party. We hopped from one house to another. At one of them, Marshmello's new track Time of My Life was blasting. I sang along, watching Missy and Paige dance. But I got just enough to get off this club. If any idiot tried anything with them, one of the guys we brought gave them a solid shoulder bump as a warning. Then another track played. I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths. The girls turned to me. That's you, they yelled, hugging me too. We danced more, laughing. After a few hours, we decided to call it a night and said goodbye to the 6. Hey, if you need to do it again, call, one of them said. Yeah, easiest money I ever got, said another. You bet, I replied with a nod. I looked at the 4 of us, Paige visibly drunk, Missy a little giddy, Sheldon looking like he'd just left a war zone. Are you hungry? Because I am. We ended up at a nearby diner. After we ate, Paige looked at me. So, did you make me drink more to kiss me? I flicked her forehead. You know I'd kiss you even if I were sober. I flicked her again. She covered her forehead. Wronged. I murmured, it was color in anime. Real life is kind of lame, eh? Come here, girl, I said, opening my arms. At the end, you still want a kiss, she said playfully. Flick. This time, I was serious. A friend hug. You really need one, I said while hugging her tightly. Now you're being lame, she muttered. I'm here for you, I said. Now you're being cringe, I'm here for you, I repeated. She stayed in my arms for a long moment, then started crying. I could feel my shirt getting damp and her hands clutching my tee. Life can sucks, you know, she said too. I patted her head. She cried more. Then, after a moment, I was there. I was at your birthday, and you didn't even say happy birthday, I joked. She pinched me, then continued, remembering the past, when she visited my house, after we met at Sheldon's, when we met again at your mom's house, I thought you were an idiot for not going to college. Then, at your birthday, 14th, seeing you surrounded by friends. I never felt so much envy, that's why I went to Sheldon last time. I thought you wouldn't understand, don't worry. I'm here for you now. We stayed like that a while longer. Sheldon and Missy were quietly watching. Sheldon didn't really get it. Eventually, I said, let's go. To where? Paige asked. My house. Look at this, I pointed at my shirt. I'm all snorting. Ooh, one. She gave me a light punch. Shut up, idiot. I tilted my head toward Missy and Sheldon. Missy tugged Sheldon's sleeve. We're coming too, asked him. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjr, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 132, Malibu House. We arrived at the Malibu house close to 2 a.m. The gates opened automatically as our cars pulled into the driveway to welcome again to Malibu Beach House. Best place to cure a hangover, I said to the 3 of them. Though, truthfully, only Paige really needed it. One come on in, I added as we entered through the kitchen door. I was helping Paige lean on me for support as we walked toward my room. Once inside, I guided her to the bathroom and lifted the toilet lid. Now you can. Before I could finish, Paige was already calling Ralph. I quickly stepped out. One Missy, she's all yours now, I said. Missy entered the bathroom and helped Paige. Meanwhile, I opened the cabinet and grabbed some clean t-shirts, shorts, and towels. Here, Missy. They're all clean, I said, handing her the clothes. Get her in the shower later, cold water. There are seal toothbrushes in that drawer, and a bunch of other stuff. Feel free to use anything, Missy nodded. Thank you. Then I opened my wardrobe again. Come here, Sheldon. Help me out. I handed him some blankets, pillows, and bed sheets. Let's go. We're sleeping in the living room. At 7:30 a.m., I woke up. I hate to sleep on the couch, I murmured, then went to brush my teeth. After that, I went to the kitchen to start some coffee. A few minutes later, Paige appeared, wearing one of my t-shirts and a pair of my shorts. Morning, Paige. She just groaned and slumped into a chair at the kitchen table, hands holding her head like it might crack open. I will never drink again, she muttered, for I've heard that line 100 times. Never seen anyone stick to it, I said, sipping my coffee. She glared at me. This is partially your fault, I just paid for the drinks. Never told you to drink, didn't even encourage it, I replied. You think I'd let you drink just so you'd suffer a brutal hangover and learn the hard way not to do stupid things? For she glared at me again. Can you give me a glass of water? She asked. I handed her the water. Minutes later, Alan walked into the kitchen. He looked at Paige, dressed in my clothes, clearly hangover, then looked at me. What happened? Alan asked, weirded out. I picked up a stray cat off the street, I said casually to Paige, choked on her water and looked thoroughly annoyed at me. Before Dad could ask again, Missy walked into the kitchen, also wearing my clothes. Morning, she said normally. Now Alan glared at me but before he could speak, Berta appeared. Morning, she said. The rest of us replied, morning. Berta looked at the two girls and smirked. So you already started, huh? Two? Not really, Berta, I replied, pulling a couple of bills from my pocket and slipping them between my fingers. Berta took them instantly. But my room probably needs a good cleaning. Paige choked again, coughing. Berta started clanging a few pots and pans. What was that for? Paige groaned. Best way to cure hangover in a bad girl, Berta said flatly. Then Uncle Charlie walked in. Why all the noise this early? He grumbled, then noticed the two girls. Oh, he said, turning to me. Nice job, with a thumbs up. Can we stop this misunderstanding? Missy cut in. We three didn't have sex last night. Now it was Alan choking on his coffee. Okay, can we start talking now? Alan said finally. Well, I began. Paige needed my help. She was drunk and about to do something stupid. So I went there and helped. And I thought, where's the best place to take a drunk 13-year-old girl with problems and issues? Hey, we're not working with underage here. Besides you, Charlie interrupted. Yes, that's the only problem, Alan added sarcastically, looking at Charlie. By the way, where's Sheldon? Asked Missy. I told them to take him back to Caltech shortly after we left the room. It was impossible to sleep with him in the living room, I said, then turned to her. When you're done with breakfast, I'll have someone drive you home. Then I looked at Paige. And you, we need a serious conversation. I tossed her some hangover meds. She caught them, still glaring me. I just raised an eyebrow and went back to my coffee. After a while, everyone started to disperse. Missy looked a little incredulous as she watched Alan and Charlie leaving. That's it? Nothing more to talk about? I trust Jake, Alan said simply. Yeah, the kid can handle it, Charlie added with a shrug. Missy looked at me with a mix of envy and confusion. Your family is so cool. You brought two girls who slept in your room, one of them clearly drunk. And even after I told them nothing happened, they just believed it? No punishment or anything? I shrugged. You heard them. They trust me. That's what you get when you don't do stupid things. Too, after breakfast, one of the guards drove Missy home. I'll be out there, I said, pointing to the deck. When you feel better, come find me. Sometime later, Paige appeared and sat beside me. How you gonna fix me, smart guy? She asked, a bit snappy too. I have an idea, I said, looking her in the eyes. But I need two things from you. She nodded for me to continue. First of all, if we're going to do this, you need to give it your all. Whether it's college or whatever you choose, you give your best. No half-ass jobs? I paused. Second, no more drinks or drugs. Nothing that could land you in juvie. You want me to be a goody two-shoes girl now? She asked, voice dripping with sarcasm. No. But you'll respect the law, or most of them. She scoffed. Okay, I can do that. So what's your idea? You move in with me and my mom. I stay there half the week. I've got plenty of friends. You'll still have fun, even if you go to college. 1. Support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mhjunior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. 1. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 133, Starting Over. She looked at me for a long moment. Are you serious? Why are you doing this? I'll be honest with you, I said, meeting her eyes. Because you're very intelligent. Or at least, you have the potential to be. You're one of a kind in that aspect. It would be a shame to waste it. Oh great. Another one that's all about my intelligence, she snapped, full of sarcasm, eyes already moist. She stood up abruptly. Sit down, Paige. I'm not finished, I said, my tone firm. She huffed and turned as if to storm out. If you walk through that door, there won't be second chances from me, I said in a calm, neutral voice. You can go and keep wrecking your life. I won't stop you. I want to help you, but don't take it for granted. She paused. Her shoulders stiffened. Then, slowly, she turned around and sat back down across from me, arms crossed, her eyes hard. What exactly do you expect, Paige? I asked, my voice laced with sarcasm. You're cute, sure. But I don't lack cute girls around me, and most don't come with this level of problem. I leaned forward, voice even. We've talked what, 4 times? We can't even call ourselves friends. We're barely acquaintances. She flinched slightly. You think I'm moved by your situation? Girl, this country is full of people with broken childhoods and no direction. Most of our problems come from that. My own school is packed with them. Girls with parental issues, trouble making friends, and yeah, some of them are cute too. You're not unique in that. I let it hang for a moment. You know why I don't go offering a hand to every one of them? Because I can't care less. They're not my friends. I'm not a charming prince or some savior. My house isn't a charity. She looked down for a second. Then back up, confused. But you, I said more softly now, you're different. Not because of your situation. Because of your mind. I wouldn't mind having someone very intelligent, funny and sharp by my side. In no time we can build a real friendship. She didn't say anything. But she didn't leave either. I reached across the table and took her hand. I don't go showing this side of me to just anyone. If we want this to work, at least you need to know that I'm not without flaws. Paige suddenly lunged at me and hugged me tight. You're a crap person, Jake. You don't talk to little girls like me like that, she said playfully. I snorted, hugging her back. Yet, it seems we're gonna be big friends. She leaned in closer and whispered in my ear, you sure you don't want more? Her voice was low and teasing. I stood up, letting her fall flat on her butt. I'm not into little girls, I said, mocking her earlier words and putting emphasis on little girls. Paige rolled her eyes, stood up, and brushed off her pants. I will totally make you fall for me, she declared. Then added, and you know what I'll say after. I raised my eyebrows, silently prompting her. She placed both hands on her heart and said in a dramatically sweet tone, we can't. I'm your little sister. I grabbed her hand and kissed it. If that happens, we move to Alabama, she burst out laughing. As we were leaving the deck, she glanced at me. Do you think our kids would be like Sheldon? EWW, I said. This world can only handle one Sheldon. We both laughed as we walked back inside together. Later that day, we went to the Santa Monica house. I explained everything to Mom. Of course you can stay here, Judith said warmly as she embraced Paige. I thought to myself, maybe Mom saw herself in Paige. Her relationship with my grandparents was still rocky. We just need to talk to your parents, she added. They don't care about me, Paige mumbled. I decided to step out, claiming I needed to use the bathroom, and left them alone for a while. When I returned, Judith called me over. Jake, come here, she said, her voice a little serious. You don't talk harshly to Paige. She's 13, she sounded like I had bullied her. Paige was sitting there with a smug smirk on her face. She was drunk and high yesterday, I said immediately, throwing Paige under the bus. Judith's head snapped toward her. He drank too, Paige said, pointing at me. Now Judith glared at me. She puked all over my room, I added quickly. Judith alternated her gaze between the two of us before finally saying, you two are grounded. We both went to my room. I didn't mind, I wanted to read anyway. Thanks a lot, Paige muttered, giving me a little jab with her elbow. That's your fault. You started, but you didn't need to escalate it, she shot back. I shook my head. You're impressive, Paige. First day here and already grounded. Shut up, you idiot. You're grounded too, in the room. I looked over at her. Did you decide what you want? You can take your time, I'll call and transfer to Qualtech. I'm pretty sure they'll accept me. Are you sure? I asked, looking at her seriously. She nodded, with a quiet sort of determination. Yeah, I'm ready to try. For real this time, I nodded back. Don't worry, I'll help you. I know the teachers might not take a 13-year-old girl seriously, even if she is a very genius one. I'll call Pepper and see if she can connect me to someone important over there. You've got the capacity, Paige. You just need someone who's willing to take you under the wings. 3. Support link, https://www.p@trian.com/c/mh junior Up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. Chapter 134, Meeting. Don't worry, I will help you, I said. Paige nodded and gave me a kiss on the cheek. A chaste one, with no other meaning involved. Thank you. Thank you for everything. That means a lot to me, even if it doesn't work. Before she could finish, I gave her a light tap on the forehead. Don't jinx it. Everything will work out. She rested her head on my shoulder. We stayed like that for a moment before I said, if you say something stupid, I will kick you out of the bed. I didn't say anything, Paige murmured. After a while, she started walking her fingers along my chest. Hey, do you know that this is my first time in a boy's room? I kicked her off the bed. Ouch, she said. I looked down at her. That's a lie. You've been in Sheldon's room and in my room back in Malibu. Sheldon doesn't count, he's practically asexual. And yesterday I didn't even see your room, she said, getting back onto the bed. I'll stop the tease, she added and rested her head near me again. We ended up falling asleep like that. When I woke up, the light was already creeping in through the window. I stretched and looked beside me. Paige wasn't there. I got up and walked out of the room. When I reached the living room, I saw her sitting with Mom, both of them flipping through a photo album. What are you two doing? I asked. Your mother is showing me pictures of you when you were young, Paige said with a grin. I walked over and looked at the album with them. Then I turned to Paige. I was cute, right? She looked at me oddly and said, that is not the reaction I was expecting. Judith chuckled and explained to Paige, he might be learning from his uncle. Both have no shame at all. One Mom, you're supposed to agree with me. For starters, that's your job, to tell the girls how cute I was. One Mom glared at me deadpan, ignored her motherly duty, and said, I'll make dinner for us, then got up when I looked at Paige and changed the subject. My friends will be here tomorrow morning? Paige just nodded. The next day, Carly, Sam, Freddie, Cher, and Regina showed up in the morning. After we exchanged greetings, Carly asked, what's so important you want to talk about? I held up a hand for a moment and gestured for them to follow me out to the deck. Paige was standing there, waiting. Tada, I said. May I present my little sister? Carly and Freddie screamed. You have a sister? Cher and Regina shook their heads in unison. You don't have a sister, they said with conviction. Sam was unfazed, looking completely indifferent. Cool, she muttered, already eyeing the snack tray nearby. How do you know? I asked Cher and Regina. Cher replied, we've talked to your mom. And we've met your dad. I got it, I said, cutting her off. So who is she? Regina asked. I turned to introduce Paige to everyone. She's a friend of mine. She'll be living here, so she'll be like a little sister. And I want her to hang out with us. Regina gave me a light shove and walked over to Paige with Cher. I like your style, Regina said with a smile. But if you want, we can help you improve it, Cher nodded. And we can introduce you to cute boys, show you the parties that are trending. I walked over and wrapped an arm around both their waists. I changed my mind, you two are out. They both jabbed me in response. Carly, Freddie, and Sam walked over and started talking with Paige. She was a little awkward at first, but gradually warmed up. Freddie and Carly were really easygoing, and Cher and Regina, despite their sharp edges, could be genuinely nice when someone caught their interest. They knew I wouldn't let just anyone live here. After a few hours of conversation, I decided to present them with a proposal I had. Hey guys, I have a proposal for you, I said to my friends. You're out for now. I looked at Paige, who just pouted. I handed some papers to Carly, Freddie, and Sam, and two different ones to Cher and Regina. Sam looked at hers and said, pointing to the title, iCarly? What is this? One Carly was already reading and asked, is this supposed to be like a show? Yes, I confirmed. But we're not actors, Freddie said, confused. I know, the idea is for you to be spontaneous. That's why you'll use your real names. Wouldn't it be like what we did for the school audition this year? Sam asked. I nodded. Yeah, I had them record something like an episode for the school audition. It was a hit, and they won again this year. We'll be on TV? Are you serious about this? Carly asked, incredulous. Dead serious. Unless you don't want to. We can make a test and see how you feel about it. I'm in. Sounds like fun, said Sam. Me too, said Freddie. I'm okay with it too. But why use my name? Asked Carly. iCarly is a good name, Sam, Freddie, and I answered in unison. Cher interrupted, mine is a movie? Clueless, mine is Mean Girls, said Regina, narrowing her eyes at me. They're perfect for you too, I added casually. Sharon Regina shot me a glare. What? I'm presenting you with a proposal to star in a movie. You don't want it? They both jumped on me at the same time. No way, our handsome Jake, support link, https://www.p@patreon.com/c/mh junior, up to 35 plus advanced chapters. Please give a review and Power Stone if you like the novel. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.